Hello and welcome to a new episode of The Min-Max Show. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Sergio Vasquez.
Hi.
Jeff Argufava.
Hey.
Did I say that too fast?
No, it was the more like coughing up an organ before you started it. It was
That's right. That's why I have a laptop here to hide the pile of organs. Kyle Hilliard. Great. Hey, welcome everybody. We are a Patreon. If you're not familiar with that, it is patreon.com/minmax2ns. I just wanted to kind of give a lay of the land before we even kick this big episode off, and again express thanks. It's one of those things that please never let us take for granted the fact that we're basically laying on a bed of nails that is the community, right? It's just like this collective support, and if everybody dropped out at the exact same time, we would be punctured. You'd be punctured hard.
If only one person supported us, we would be impaled by their support.
I think they know. I have a meeting this Friday about a potential space and stuff, so I'll figure that out. For this episode, we're not talking about Half-Life. I'm very sorry if you're watching the video version of this, or absorbing it on Thursday or after that. We're going to have a standalone video on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/minmaxgames, 2 N's of course, where we'll talk all about Half-Life, probably a reaction video from Kyle and I if I had to predict the future.
I would like to watch it live and film my face and overreact. That's what you want, right?
I don't think you can do this without being sarcastic, which is why
that's my goal. I'll be sarcastic
sincere
right now, but I'm going to look for details and get excited. Because the thing is, I'm a big Half-Life story guy.
Yeah.
And you're a big Valve guy, I think. Have you ever played Half-Life? Really?
I'm a big industry guy.
Okay.
I've played half of Half-Life 1.
So you get it.
Yeah.
The guy jumps, doesn't talk.
ideal.
It's fine.
As a person who owns a VR headset and loves Half-Life,
interesting.
I'm excited to see it, and I will not be sarcastic.
What if it's
Maybe a little sarcastic.
exclusive to the headset you don't have, though?
I'll be bummed.
It'd be a hoot. Shenmue 3 we'll quickly touch on. Kyle has some very brief thoughts. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, we've all been playing, I do believe, which is a rare treat. Pokemon Sword and Shield, that should be a blast. Let's see, Kyle, you've been playing Pokemon?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys haven't started it?
I haven't started it, no.
Believe this?
Been busy playing games to play
know.
games.
That's great. We have a lot to say about that, though. Let's see, the Call of Duty Battle Royale leak, rumor.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting thing to touch on, what's going on with potentially Modern Warfare's Battle Royale. XO19 was last week, so we'll talk about that, talk about Game Pass, Age of Empires 4, of course, maybe Minecraft Earth, and then back half of the show, we have some great community comments.
There's still a hurdle you need to jump over there.
Things that make the show better that people leave on our Patreon page. And again, like, overwhelmed by the amount of support. Also, we should plug, we wrapped up the deepest dive on the Outer Worlds. It was 3 big chunks. We had a last one that went up on Wednesday, was breaking down the ending to the game, which is really fascinating. If you have no intention of playing Outer Worlds whatsoever, which, by the way, we all think you should, but I think it'd be interesting to jump into that last one because it's a good example just of showing the variety of the game and how many different player experiences there are, multiple endings, all that fun stuff. So that's up on our YouTube channel, or if you support the Patreon at any level, then you get access. Or I'm sorry, the $5 level, then you get access to the audio version. Okay, that's it.
enough housekeeping.
Let's walk into the house. Shenmue 3.
Where the bed of nails
the
is.
Shenmue
that we
house.
sleep on.
Real quick, Kyle, you're
you can
reviewing
go through
this.
every drawer.
Yeah, exactly.
So I am reviewing it. I'm reviewing it for IGN, which is exciting. I'm very happy to have like an excuse to play the game because I worry that like I would have checked it out for sure because I have this weird history with Shenmue 1 and 2.
But you would have probably spent like 2 hours with it and been like, got it, we've got to move on.
Realistically, yeah. And then like as I'm playing it, like, I mean, it feels like an old game. So there are elements of it that are a bit of a struggle. But like I'm glad that I'm going through it and experiencing it and seeing where this thing goes. Like I think Yu Suzuki has been pretty clear that this is not the finale, right?
Well, not in his head.
Not in his head.
We'll see it financially.
We'll see if the Death
finale.
Star blows up at the end, right? Like if there is some sense of closure in this entry. I'm not optimistic.
I don't think there will be.
But yeah, but I'll have a review up for it soon. So,
okay.
And then maybe we can talk about it more in depth next week.
You say it's old. I mean, that is the amazing thing. We've talked about it. I think on the MinFacts, we talked about it on the Game Informer show back in the day, a month ago. But just that idea of that team, like I went to YSNet before I left and spent a day with the studio. And like the conclusion at the end of that was like they are almost accidentally making Shenmue 3. They are trying to take the core of Shenmue 2, make a modern game, but because Yu Suzuki has such a different mind compared to other people in the industry, the game they're making feels like a game from like 2004-ish, right?
It's still, even playing it now, this game, Shenmue 3, it's still kind of weird. Like, I think about Yu Suzuki. Like, he's not a guy that I follow particularly closely or anything.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's still crazy to me to think of that he came up with this sort of weird premise and idea for how this game functions and works so long ago.
Yeah.
Like, it's still impressive, even if it's like, feels old. You know?
Right. It's crazy that it comes from his love of games like Wizardry.
Oh,
and Ultima, just like early games where you could do anything. It's kind of like this. It's strangely enough a lot of the same roots as like the immersive sim genre, and it's like you can see those threads, right? Just like the game reacting to the player. You can have multiple past each objective, and so it's weird.
I never thought of the immersive sim angle, but I could. Yeah, I could see that.
If you plot that chart and that family tree, it's like he was inspired by the same. Like the overall sense is just at that studio this reverence for this developer, and like, hey, he's an oddball. Sometimes he's really tough to deal with, but like Shenmue is him. It is his life, right?
Yeah, I could see that.
He's killing himself to make this game, and it's amazing that they pulled it off, and I hope fans are happy with it, right?
Is this really dumb, but
Please.
YSNet?
Yeah.
I just realized that's like Yu Suzuki, right? YS? Like
I didn't know that until I was probably 100 feet away from the studio. And
I've played like both Shenmues, and it was like today that I was like, oh, Yu Suzuki.
I think we all realized that yesterday when Hanson told us that during the live stream.
Really?
Sorry, Hanson's very distracted by the spider that's coming into the shot.
The itsy bitsy spider is finally lowering into the
I
studio.
thought it was pronounced
Your
Eastnet.
takes suck.
I thought it was pronounced Eastnet, which is, but then
we had that conversation. Were you at the stream yesterday?
I was focusing on chopping wood, man.
I guess so.
Yeah, but it's capital Y, lowercase s.
You're not going to kill that, are you,
I'm
Hanson?
keeping an eye on it. It's right there.
Oh, he's going for it. For the audio listeners, Hanson has smacked a spider.
He
threw it in Jeff's mouth.
What other podcasts?
He just wanted to be on Minimax.
huh? That one's for our $10 Patreons. You have exclusive access to that spider.
It's a subtle reminder
remains.
from Insomniac that they were robbed last year. The Game of the Year Awards. I don't know how you connect that. Spiders, everybody. We're in a cold, dark basement. But if we hit our $15,000 goal on Patreon, we'll have a spiderless studio, guaranteed.
That's right.
Oh, guaranteed.
Okay, so Shenmue 3 review. Does that help support the Patreon in any way, or is that separate?
I think it's separate. I don't know. That's a weird question. Maybe
just
they'll
a
be like,
funny idea.
oh, who's this guy? I'll find out about this
Oh
author.
my god!
Yeah, IGN just happens to have an affiliate, but they won't. Yeah,
They won't scrub
find
that
it.
out.
It'll be one letter long.
All right, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I am probably 3 hours into it. Serial, where are you at?
I think I'm like 10 hours into it.
Okay,
I'm
Kyle
like in
Hilliard, where are you
Kashyyyk.
at?
An hour and 15 minutes or so.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bummer. I thought you were going to
I
be...
got other stuff to play.
I get it. And Jeff Markiafava, ladies and gentlemen.
I beat it and found every secret and chest.
That's amazing. All right.
The real, you're Cal Kestis, man. You did it.
No, don't say that. That's an insult.
Oh,
we'll
no.
get to that.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
What do you think of it?
I overall really liked it, and I really liked it because of the gameplay. The story I came around to. I think it. No, I think it is a good story. I think there are interesting characters, but my biggest hurdle throughout the game was the main protagonist, who is just like such a blank slate of a character, just no personality whatsoever.
He's a real dope, and it doesn't help within like the first hour and a half of the game or so when he picks up a guitar and starts playing it on the ship. It's like, what are they doing? They're making a parody of a Star Wars character this way.
I felt the same way until they explained exactly why he was playing it.
It was to explain his force sensitivity and how he can touch an object.
So
Through
there's
song.
other ways to do that other than him
it's
banging
super
out
weird. It's super
Wonderwall
weird.
on
I'm
the
just saying,
guitar.
my initial reaction was the same. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, you guys, what are you trying to do, Last of Us or Bioshock Infinite? But then
Right.
when Seer came in and kind of explained what was going on, because I was much more forgiving of it.
Right,
you know?
right.
Anyway.
All right, let's play our favorite game, which is from Red Letter Media and his take.
I was gonna bring that up.
Were you
Yes,
really?
yes,
And his take
because
on the
that's
prequels,
exactly what I
which
thought.
is describe Cal without his role or what he looks like.
Yes, his personality.
Right. How would
And-
you describe it after finishing the game?
Yes, the two only descriptions I could come up with are Force Adept, which does not count.
Does not count.
And I would say overconfident sometimes, but
Okay.
not in a way, not like as a character flaw. Like if some feels, I mean, it may make you not like that character, but it makes sense for whatever their archetype is in the thing.
Yeah.
This is just there are certain times where he goes into a situation where he's like, I'm gonna be the Star Wars guy who saves the universe. Like he feels like a plant. He feels like he is the character that we're supposed to embody, but it feels very much like either, you know, EA or Respawn or Disney's idea of who the target audience is for a Star Wars video game.
Right.
And so there's one situation where you are fighting a big character. It's kind of like a boss moment, you know, not too far into the game, but like Cal gets his butt kicked through it. He gets, you know, like force pushed through a wall. He's about to die, and BD1, your little droid, he like throws up a force field. You know, he like runs over and activates a console, and a force field comes up so that the bad guy can't get to you. And then like 10 minutes later, you know, the bad guy's taunting you on your headset wireless, you know, whatever, however that works. Star Wars stuff.
Why did you answer that call?
And,
Blue milk tooth.
And Cal says, oh, what, you're too afraid to face me in person? And it's like, you just got your ass kicked by this person. Like, you got saved by a little droid.
Well, he's a plucky young rogue.
But he doesn't even come off as that plucky either, or a rogue.
Not plucky enough to be interesting.
It's just like his spot in the story feels very unearned, and I know that was a criticism that people threw at Rey in the newer Star Wars games, which I never had a problem with Rey, and I think I think the difference for me is that Cal doesn't have any characteristics of a hero, you know. Like you could say that maybe Rey shouldn't have had so many, you know, like she shouldn't have been as good at the Force or whatever.
Yeah.
But she felt like her core person was someone who could be a hero and who, you know, deserved to be a hero. She was self-reliant, you know, she was brave and whatever else. But like, I just don't get any of that personality from
Well, aren't they trying to do it like with the opening scene? And hopefully people don't consider it too much of a spoiler. You've seen a lot of it in trailers, but he reveals that he has the Force by trying to save a buddy, and that's the big hero moment, right? And that's them going out of their way to be like, by the way, that alien buddy, one of the most human performances of the year. I love that dude. I thought it was really good.
And that's part of the problem is that like all the other characters around him are more interesting than the character that you're playing as.
Right.
He's like a speak been spoken to type where it's like all the characters relay information to him and he's like, I guess I'll go do the thing you just told me to do.
Yes, yeah. It doesn't feel like there's that agency of like, well, I have to save the day. Okay, I'm going to figure out how to do that. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to get to this place. It's like, oh, well, you know, Sir will introduce you to this captain, and this captain's going to take you there, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, most of his dialogue feels functional, like oh, I can't get across this gap, or like, oh, BD, here's a hint, or like, you know, you get a hint, it's like, oh, maybe this other thing could happen, and so much. It was like off-brand Tom Holland to me.
Tom Holland. Weird. Why Tom Holland?
I think similar hairstyle, kind of like maybe similar like facial structure, but it just seemed like, well, like he's trying to fill a particular role of like, oh, I'm kind of witty because I'm young, but it just feels like a lot of this plot just happens to him, versus like you said, he doesn't have like agency. It's like, I want to be a Jedi. Like he was told like, hey, you should be a Jedi, and he was like, okay, I guess I'll be a Jedi. And these are the things I need to do.
It's very Kyle Business School. You know, just someone told him what to do, and so he just went along with it.
This is why I like him, because he's got red hair and he's, you know, Kyle Business School.
It's also a frustrating character in the sense that like everyone else around him is constantly saving his life, you know?
Yeah.
Which I appreciate the fact that they don't make him just super overpowered. You know, like he is a fallible character.
Okay.
I mean, he has force powers or whatever, but it's like when he goes up against a person who has much more experience than him, he gets his ass kicked.
Yeah, but the weird part of this game's structure is that it's a little bit, in some ways, reminds me of like a Metroid Prime 3, where it's like, I'm sorry, Other M, where it's like, all right, Samus, now you have permission to use this ability, right? Because it's structured in a way where he's very familiar with the Force, but he's closed himself off, so he's like remembering throughout the course of the game, like, oh, that's right.
Yeah, unlocking all of his powers is, oh yeah, I'm a Jedi, huh?
Yeah, and it's, what's the advantage of structuring the game that way?
You get to unlock the powers one by one. Instead of having to go back to the starting the same area and backtracking there the first time you're there, like it is a like very artificially built as like a backtracking game where you're like, okay, I need to go to this area. Here's all the secrets I have. I see this thing that I can't get to, but the environments look suspicious.
But why can't he learn to wall run for the first time?
Like I don't. I think it's just because they do establish him as like, I think at his age, I think he should have already learned a lot of the Jedi powers, so they're kind of justifying it. I think he's past the age where someone could teach him, like, hey, you should wall run. And he also doesn't have a functional, teacher to do that stuff. Like Sarah isn't helping him.
It would kind of like, defeat the idea of Yoda and Empire being like, Luke, you're too old for the training, right? If like everybody at that age is getting the training.
I mean, it's also, I see that as just a function of the gameplay where they want you to have a steady sense of progression throughout the thing. If you had all your powers at the very beginning, it would, I think, feel very one note. And
no, I'm not saying you can have all the powers. I'm just saying you can learn it along the way.
Yeah, I think his question is why isn't someone teaching him versus?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I would rather have it the way it is than you collect 5 Jedi crystals and then all of a sudden you can wall run it. It's then kind of the alternative because I think it is. We like to call it Metroid. It's like Metroidvania.
Right.
I mean, my argument is that it's just good game design to like have you be like see something that you want to interact with that you can unlock the ability to do so, and then you get the sort of the joy of doing that.
I'd argue it's not good game design to constantly see things that say no to the player. You want to go over here, but no.
But isn't it satisfying to earn the yes?
No,
I don't know. To me, disagree.
Give me Breath of the Wild. Give me the yes for everything out of the game.
To me, the thing is that I feel like they dip into that well way too often. Of like you see, well, for one issue that I have is like you when you get BD1 and you have the map, they'll show you like you have 4 chests to unlock and like 1 secret, but there will be like echoes you can sense that don't account for that number, which is A, like a sin that people should not do, and B, like it is I feel overwhelmed like 10 hours in of like how many things I'm gonna get. Like just when I get the Scomp link, which is a thing they tell me you need to have this, right? It feels so like they did this in a very obvious way of like, oh, there's cracks everywhere. The map tells you that those are the doors that you're supposed to get. So there's like, it makes it easy to come back, but it is very obviously and not organically designed that way.
It's broadcasting it too much.
And there's also just like, the basic video game thing of like, oh, here are these vines that I can't cut through, but here's like a cut. I've been cutting through vines this entire game. I don't know what's going on there. But there's a thing around the corner that is like very unstable rocks that I know I'm going to force push later. So it just feels like, oh, they're arbitrarily like setting up locks and keys that I know kind of fit into this paradigm that they're trying to establish, like the whole backtracking thing. But it just feels like, no, like you will backtrack when we tell you to. It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel natural where it's like, oh, you can see a thing, you can figure it out later, right?
Right.
And there are like the spaces I don't think are super well designed. Like it kind of made me think of Mario Odyssey. You know how like you'd be walking down a path and you'd see like kind of like this like kind of suspicious gap somewhere, and you'd be like, oh, let me explore that area, and you'd kind of make one jump, and it's like, oh, cool, it rewarded my curiosity. I feel like besides the very obvious instances, there are times when it's like, oh, that wall looks like I can run on it because it's like it happens to be like creviced the way wall running walls are, but then there would be nothing there. Like it's not a wall you can interact with. So it is like it makes Nintendo's design that way stand out because they reward you at every turn, whereas this feels like either they do or they don't. So it makes it feel very artificial the way that part of the game is structured.
I hear you. I was surprised pretty early on that you get to choose which planet you go to. I guess I didn't see it as that type of game. I saw it as more of the Uncharted mold, and I think as the game starts, it feels so Uncharted, and then at around that point is when it really hit me. What everybody's talked about. You talked about when you're on the cover story trip at GI, but just like, oh, they're going for Dark Souls.
Yes.
It is shocking.
Yeah, I had that exact same thing. And I must have just forgotten that you and Reiner were talking about that when you guys got back.
Entire features about that.
Yeah.
With that headline.
I was checked out that whole month.
Because I was going into it very much thinking Uncharted Star Wars. And that first, the prologue really sells that. And then I was like, oh no, this is Dark Souls. Like this is shockingly Dark Souls.
Specifically Sekiro, even, I think, right? I mean, you guys have played more than me. Yeah, because it's so parry heavy, right?
I guess so, but just the exploration-wise, it is insane, and I can't imagine how much of a compliment this is to Miyazaki, because Miyazaki's a big old nerd. Can you imagine a world where Star Wars is taking inspiration from Software? Like, that is where we're at in 2019, and it blows my mind that one of the biggest media properties in the world can be like, you know what? That tiny company over there, relatively, in Tokyo, they have a good sense of game design, and now it's going to weave its way into a canonical Star Wars project. It's just insane.
Yeah, and for people who don't know much about it, like there are specific spots in levels where you meditate,
Yeah,
and that,
bonfires, yeah.
Yeah, that resets your health and also resets your health vials that you're carrying around, but it also respawns all the enemies.
Right.
And if enemies kill you, you lose all your XP and you have to get back to that enemy and attack them to get it back. Like, that is straight up the Dark Souls formula.
It's really shocking. And the fact that that's so well known and commonplace in the game industry now, where a company like EA, not even to mention Star Wars, right, can take that. It's like, well, yeah, here's a new standard, everybody. It's just infiltrated the industry to that extent.
Yeah, it almost feels weird because like it feels so at odds with like what they want to do with that as like a story, because it just feels completely arbitrary to like, oh, okay, I'm trying to do this thing, I'm trying to like pass this trial, I guess I'll go meditate. Like it feels extra out of place here in a way that kind of makes me want the more straightforward like Uncharted experience, because there are moments where it just feels like you're being funneled from one of those segments to the next.
Yeah.
Versus like they're like the areas feel like a bunch of tunnels that are circuitous, but they don't feel open, right? So you choose one of X number of paths to go down, and then you basically come back to a center point via a shortcut, and then you go explore the next one.
Is this what all the planets are like? Because that first branch, not to spoil anything, but I chose like the darker planet or whatever, and I was
Dathomir.
like, oh. Well, yeah, sure. But I was surprised that like there wasn't more of a story emphasis there. And I'm like, I wonder if there are more story beats on the other planet, or are they all pretty much just Dark Souls levels?
I think you're supposed to go to Zepho is kind of like the
That's where the story was leading me.
Yeah,
for sure.
there is. It does a good job of like sprinkling the story throughout. It's kind of like each one you're going to get a new power, maybe 2 powers, and they kind of inject story moments into those areas. But yeah, it's like they give you that choice at the beginning, and it really seems to just like no matter which planet you pick, there are going to be places that you can't get to on that planet because you don't have the force powers from the other planet. But I did like how they sprinkle out the story. I do actually like that. I like that formula, and I like that level design.
You do?
Because I do like having the world kind of progress in the same way that your character is progressing. I like being able to get to new places. I like kind of having that slog where you're going through and then it's like, oh, now I unlocked a shortcut. I can get back up to here so much faster. That's satisfying to me. Like that's also why I like the Dark Souls games. And it like the formula does feel very artificial here to be using that kind of like respawning and enemies and whatnot. But in a way, it kind of works for me just because I think environments are so important to the Star Wars, stories too, that like I appreciate having such a heavy focus on the areas that I'm in. Like going
really
around Kashyyyk and exploring Kashyyyk is interesting in a way that it's not always in video games where it's just kind of set dressing and you're really focused on just blasting people. Like here, I'm actually looking for secrets. Some of them are better hidden. Like sometimes and especially in the beginning, it's very obvious where, certain things are that you have to go. But trying to find those last secrets and, like going around Imperial bases and stuff, I do kind of like that focus. And it's one of those, situations where Respawn just put a ton of time into making sure everything is perfect to, that Star Wars lore. And, like all the visuals are exactly what you expect, but that still works for me.
Yeah. I'm still enjoying it. It just it's a game where I don't know that I would like, I kind of had this moment where I was like, it's like, when Joe came back to you and would talk to you about a review, he'd be like, okay, I don't want you to like rewrite it, but I have some, like there are some highlights that we need to talk through, right? Like that is, I would have like a lot of individual points of like with yellow highlights where it's like, I want you to change this sentence, like this doesn't seem like it. Yeah. But overall, like he would say like, yeah, you did a good job. I have some notes, right? Like that's sort of where I'm sitting at with this game, where I'm enjoying it and I like it, and I'm having like, even if I'm kind of like critiquing a lot of the way it's structured, seeing a thing where it's like, oh, I bet I could do this, and the moments where that does pay off of like, oh, I'm using this swing that I was able to do one way. If I go the other way, there's a secret there. Like I am still enjoying that, and there's a part of me that like does want the game to be a little bit more linear, but I am enjoying the open spaces and stuff a little bit more. But there are sort of ways where it's like I wish it were like kind of a little bit more subtle, right?
Yeah, sure. I think zooming out, it's always that crazy thing of, well, they did a nearly impossible task of releasing a big, because you said you spent like 30 hours into it, like single player Star Wars game from EA with no microtransactions. Like that is a Hail Mary
single
for the
player
industry.
and story focused too.
Right, that's inspired by Dark Souls. Like it's just an absurd combo that they pulled this off.
In the same year, by the way, that they released Apex Legends and have been updating that.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, Respawn. Yeah. I mean, all hats off go to them for sure. But it's just crazy too. Like looking at the amount of customization with. You can customize BD1. You can customize the ship, which I didn't know was going to be in there. You can customize your lightsaber, obviously. And it's all just tailor-made. Those EA business people were just rubbing their hands when they saw those early designs.
Yeah, because it's all it's mostly just cosmetic skins and stuff. And I'm sure they were like, oh yeah, $5 for the gold plating on the lightsaber.
I think the lightsaber parts are all parts that you could actually buy at the Star Wars theme park, right? Which is another thing of just like, hey, that lightsaber you spent $200 on, you could buy it here in the game, and it's it's
not in there.
It's also weird because sometimes getting a lightsaber hilt as a reward for I did this weird intricate puzzle and I figured it out. Oh, here's a lightsaber hilt that really is just cosmetic.
Yeah,
it's kind of disappointing, but it serves a lot of the game's design of let's have you do a thing for a bonus, right? And I always prefer I like getting the life bonuses and things like that more so than that, but I like that it does have so many opportunities to give you these little trinkets for exploring, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of hats off to Respawn, where do you guys stand on Respawn's cheeky little thing where every time you die it says Respawn?
It was a little weird.
I wish it were automatic. I wish it would just say Respawn and you didn't have to press a button because sometimes I would just sit there waiting for it to load.
But I get it, but it's fun in a first-person shooter, I guess. Titanfall, get it. But then in a Star Wars, something about a third-person action game, calling it respawning feels weird to me.
It's nice to have a little stamp on the game from the developer, right?
Yeah.
That's fine. I wish I didn't have to use a button press to get to
use my sweet button press.
That was Bungie's thing was always we don't ask you to restart in Halo. You just restart.
Yeah.
We want the game to be fun enough where we're just going to keep playing. So.
Yeah.
We should talk also real quick that the combat's really good.
Oh yeah,
we probably should have brought that up.
Sure.
We had a question I think last week on the podcast from some amazing listener who asked what the ideal lightsaber combat would be for us. And as I was playing, I thought retroactively oh yeah, it's Dark Souls combat. That makes so much sense to me of there's enough depth in the amount of moves you have, but then everything else is very timing based, and you have to when you get up against a big enemy, you have your lightsaber and you're kind of walking around them just waiting for that perfect moment. That's very Star Wars-y to me.
Right. And they blink red when it's an impossible to dodge attack.
Yes,
very
of course.
Star Wars.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the little computer UI, I think, is the way it works.
They don't really justify blocking because how are you going to block a lightsaber attack? But I've been enjoying having to figure out enemies patterns and stuff.
The windows for counters are friendly, at least on the normal difficulty.
Yeah, I'm playing on Jedi Master. So
I feel I'm hitting those blasters back consistently.
Yeah, that stuff. And then just the idea of here's a guy with a Gatling blaster that you meet later on, and you just kind of blocking everything automatically. That's your shield basically, is your own lightsaber, cool. And you just blocking things away. That's a really cool twist on that formula.
Yeah. Now I'm bad at action games, and I'm horrific at Dark Souls, and very inexperienced in it as well.
Good.
I'm having a real tough time with this game to the point that I reached a point of saying, F this.
No, okay.
Did you lower the difficulty?
I don't want to talk about that.
No, man, don't be ashamed of that.
You're right. You're right. So I'm on Jedi Knight.
Yeah, that's right? The easy or
it seems
normal.
Yeah, I guess it's normalish to easy. It's
think
four
it's
tiers.
Yeah,
so it's confusing.
It's story, then knight, then master, then
grandmaster.
I want to go to story.
Yeah,
just do it.
Do it, man.
But I feel like I should get better at this formula if it's going to be so important for the industry, and I've been trying to ignore it for so long.
I don't know, man. Just have fun.
Yeah, and appreciate the fact that someone actually put out one of these games where you can change the difficulty for once.
I get it, but do you have any advice? Because I don't want to do the same run over and over and over again.
This does feel, another thing that I wanted to mention is it does feel like a game where you can learn to play it wrong, or at least not learn how to play it right, because there are some things like blocking and parrying that you can kind of brute force your way through without really learning how those systems work. There are giant spider enemies that were really hard for me.
I saw one in here.
That's right. And at one point I was in an area with 3 of them, and it was this is I'm just getting my butt kicked by these giant spiders. And then I realized that if you actually block one of their attacks, it opens up kind of like a prompt where you can one-hit kill them. And it's like, I was, 20 hours into the game at this point because I just always just roll out of the way when things attack me. And it's like, oh, okay, sometimes like you really do want to let them hit you, but you're blocking it as it comes in just to get that parry moment and stuff.
Right.
And so you may want to look into that.
Yeah. I mean, my advice is someone who really still struggles with Dark Souls and Sekiro, but like did ultimately enjoy them. The thing that I had to get over personally was just patience. I'm not a patient gamer in action games.
Right.
But like if you just stop when you encounter an enemy and take a second and don't try, like let them open up the attack. Like that's the thing I feel like I had to learn when I sort of finally started to embrace that style of game.
Right.
So I don't know if that'll help you. But
yeah.
Also, when you get force push, it really helps a lot too.
Sure.
And it's very satisfying too when like some of the Inquisitor enemies show up, which are they're just a pain in the butt. And it's kind of like that Indiana Jones moment where it's like they're getting ready to fight you, and it's just like I'm just gonna push you into this ravine, and you're gonna die instantly.
Yeah.
They do.
You can also like very early on, you can slow them down basically. So anytime you're about to attack, you can. It's almost like a free parry that you have limited amount of, where you can just slow them down, get behind them, hit them a couple times, and as long as you are attacking them enough to get back your force, you can kind of keep doing that. So that helps. And I've been playing on like the one level up from normal, and I have been having trouble with like, am I parrying too early or too late? Because like if you can't mash it, the parry button. So I am also having trouble with it, but I'm more kind of like into the idea of figuring out like, I'll kill like an invader, and if I didn't do it right, I'll be a little disappointed. Where I was like, I didn't learn how to beat this person properly. I just kind of brute forced it, like you said.
And one of the things that's cool about the difficulty levels is that it does change the window of opportunity that you have for parries. Like it gets bigger as you go up. And I had started on Jedi Master and played like halfway, and then I switched to Jedi Knight just because like, I don't want to always be in fear of dying in a Star Wars experience,
Right.
Like that's not the fantasy that I'm looking for in Star Wars.
You're a literal Jedi Knight.
Yes. Yeah. And so don't feel bad about bumping it down.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Yeah, I was also playing on Grandmaster, and it feels like that is the thing where it's like, oh yeah, we want to make it hard like Dark Souls, but they kind of, I don't know if they understand what that means, because like
the amount of balance and fine tuning.
Yeah, because like that, it felt like this was very early on, and there's this one side, so it felt like, so, and there's a long lead up to get to that boss if you die. So I had like a really tough like, okay, I'm doing everything right, I'm almost dead, and he'll touch you once, and it's like, okay, I'm dead. So that was like a really frustrating learning experience. So like I don't think like the fact that they do have all these difficulty levels means that they didn't like properly hone each one maybe. But I think that the game gets better if it's a little bit more manageable. So I don't know that like the hard part of the Dark Souls formula is the thing you should take away here.
That's tough. I mean, it's up there, but it still comes back to it. I mean, like, this is, without a doubt, for me at least, one of the best Star Wars video game adventures that I've had. But it feels like an adventure where your mom gets to pick your play date that goes along with you, Like
beyond Seer, like Cal himself?
Yeah, I just it doesn't feel right to have this be the character that I'm playing as because he's so forgettable. And it's like 2 or 3 hours in, like I literally forgot his name, and I went into the menus, and was like reading things. And I was like, oh right, his name is Carl, and then I was like, nah, and it's because the fonts are small or whatever. And it's like, and it's actually Cal, but I was like, no, actually, like Carl the Jedi makes sense for who this character is. It just feels like this random person who got pushed in, and then like everyone else around him is like, okay, we're going to help you get there. We're going to risk our lives to make sure that you're the one who gets to save the galaxy. And that just feels kind of artificial to me.
Right, for sure.
I want to know, do you have a ranking? Like personally, like in terms of like
games
what
so
the
far?
greatest Star Wars games?
Are you? Oh, because KOTOR is generally considered the best, right?
Yeah, and I think I would say KOTOR. Yes.
Still, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I mean, also there just aren't that many games. Star Wars games,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, even an hour in, just like third-person action game with combat that I like and wall running that reminds me of Prince of Persia. Like, if it stays like consistent, like I could see it being like my favorite Star Wars.
And like I said,
game,
I 100%ed it. So
yeah,
like I really enjoyed it. I did enjoy the story. There are some really good parts towards the end, like story stuff and also gameplay stuff that I really appreciated. It's just, again, one of my yellow highlight notes is I'm not fully on board with the main character.
Story-wise, it kind of falls in that tricky camp where it takes place between episodes 3 and 4, but it falls in that same camp as like Shadow of Mordor, where like his objective in the game is one of those things of like, well, clearly I know this isn't going to go well. I know you're not going to take out Sauron here, buddy, right? Unless there's some more secrets in the Star Wars universe that I understand at this point.
As you know, I'm from the Mandalorian spoiler cast that we did. I'm an expert on Star Wars history. Like the whole time I was like, I don't know where this takes place, and I don't really care. You know, like I can kind of piece together where it is, but it's mostly new characters, and don't let it bother you too much.
Thinking of other Star Wars games, be a fun trivia game is Star Wars video game music trivia. Here's a slice of just John Williams wannabe number 412 in this Star Wars video game, because the music it's Star Wars enough, but even throughout this entire game, it's just like, just stop. I just can't have any more people trying to mimic so many things from John Williams' score. It'll drive you mad.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, here's the twinky little part. Here's the... It's like, okay, I got it. It's Star Wars.
What would you want, though? What's the alternative?
I don't know. Skrillex. Something a little bit different. Even like
just that opening song throughout the whole game.
No, I think a lot about like the Solo soundtrack, which I probably talk about way too much. But I think that takes a lot of different beats and has a different sound than just the standard John Williams outside of the Solo theme, which was composed by John Williams. But
satisfying answer.
Feel free to go for a little something different.
Real quick, have you guys had any like performance issues? Because I don't know. The people have been talking about that as a sticking point.
Yeah. What happened?
Oh no, that I wasn't even referencing that. I just had like a weird one of those spider enemies kind of like shifting in and out of the environment very quickly. But I've been having like some slowdown on PC, but I just feel like that's maybe my system not being able to handle it. I don't know how you guys were on consoles.
Yeah, I've been playing on Xbox One X and it crashed on me twice.
Oh wow.
But like the save system is good, so I didn't really lose any progress or anything.
Yeah, I had a crash on PC playing on Steam where it just crashed the desktop. Like, what the hell? That's not gaming, I said. So,
okay.
There you go. A little crashy.
Are you going to keep playing? Maybe?
I'll try bumping it down and try not being a big, fat, fake gamer boy with this thing, but... I guess so.
Do you have? I was asking Jeff about his ranking. Do you have like a?
Oh, I have not.
You're not like a big Star Wars guy.
Yeah, so
right?
it's like this number one with a bullet, baby.
You're not a big Star Wars guy?
No, in general. I like watching it, but I'm not like I didn't necessarily grow up with it the way a lot of people did. So it's not like, oh, that's Boba Fett, guys. He's my favorite.
You're telling me you've never said the iconic sentence, "Oh, that's Boba Fett, guys"?
Yeah.
I find that very hard to believe.
We went and saw Solo together at E3.
And I had fun with that.
And you kept leaning over and you were like, "Who's on Solo? Who's that guy?
Is he the Kinect Star Wars guy?
Oh, that's Donald Glover. Is he important?"
I like that part where Donald Glover was in it. That's cool. My favorite Star Wars character.
Sword and Shield. Callie Hilliard, how much have you played?
I've like 5 hours, I think.
Okay, great. I'm under that. I'm around like the 3-hour mark or so.
Who are your starters?
Grookey, because he has a drumstick.
Sable, because he's sad. That was very fun, though, starting out. I don't know what the evolutions look like. Like, I really am happy that the Pokemon Company and Game Freak overall kept that a little bit closer to their chest this time around. I didn't put it on the back of the box or anything. And so it's just like this great mystery of like, I am leaning Sobble. It could be a disaster. And then I got to level 16 and said, okay, let's see where this goes. I still don't know where it's going.
I had the exact same reaction with Drucker. I was like, oh, okay, this is the adolescent years. Let's see if you...
Exactly. I mean, I've seen them, but do you want me to...
I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I was even going to capture a bunch of gameplay for like the B-roll and the video version of this podcast, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do it because I'm using like the middle evolution for Sobble, and I don't want to spoil it for folks. I'll just go back and use some generic stuff.
Yeah, my wife and kid both picked what's the rabbit's name?
Score
Bunny. So I've seen their evolutions.
You're not actually here right now.
But I'm sorry, man. But I haven't seen Sobble's at all, so it's interesting. Yeah.
The designs overall, I think there's some solid designs out of the gate. I love Rookidee. I love the name. I love the idea of a chickadee-inspired Pokemon out of the gate.
Yamper's good.
Yamper's solid.
I think he was revealed beforehand, though, right?
He was, Yamper, yeah, at E3. But it's nice to have an electric type that early, too, which is always one of those that it takes me a while before I'm settled on my electric type. But it's like, all right, Yamper, you're in the roster for a while. Nixit, which is like the dark fox.
Right?
Yeah. Cool look. You know, it's like Vulpix is already out.
Is there like a Bidoof, like a Rattata, kind of like, oh, here's the boring Pokemon that I gave you. You can catch it if you want.
Squirrel, with a very impossible to remember name.
It's nice to have. It's nice playing a Pokemon game. I don't know why it feels like it's been a while since I've played through a Pokemon game with like where I don't know the Pokemon.
Yeah,
I think Sun and Moon must have been the last one, but then I played Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon.
Well, sure,
but but it feels like weirdly fresh. Like I don't know if it's just because I'm going in more blind than usual on this Pokemon.
I think also they've been really conservative with marketing,
which is good. Like I think it's paid off because it is like I'm using that screenshot button a lot. Where I'm just like, oh, look at this weird thing.
Get a load of this freak.
Yeah.
Do you think it has to do with like the pitch for Sun and Moon being like, okay, we're changing a lot of things because please buy this 3DS game when the Switch is out. It's about to come out next year, and this is like, it's Pokemon on Switch. You guys are going to buy it. Whatever.
I think the other thing about Sun and Moon is there was still a focus on first gen. Because it was a lot of like Alola versions of first gen. So I think that's why this is a little more exciting to see so many new faces.
A whole new region. Yeah. Except for Choodle, the just dopiest looking turtle in that starting area. I hate Choodle's design. He looks
His
so
evolution
dumb.
is cool though, I think.
Oh really?
Yeah.
We got a good Choodle down the road?
Yeah, keep your Choodle around.
Damn it, I gotta keep my Choodle around. Okay, design wise, what else do you think about it, Kyle? Are you enjoying it so far?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot.
Like, okay, because you seem to be on the fence about whether or not you're even going to play it.
Yeah, I was, and I'm glad I started. I'm liking it more than Sun and Moon. I really like the wild area. Like it's not, open world Pokemon. It's really not. But it's a step in that direction, and it's cool to walk around and encounter like really powerful Pokemon. And it's like I read Brian Shea's review for Game Informer, and this was one of his big complaints about the game, and I absolutely agree with him in that it is very frustrating that you can't even attempt to catch those things. It seems kind of silly.
It is a slap in our face. Yeah, I absolutely had that too, where there's so many steps, I think, in the right direction the starting hours of this game, where it's like, okay, a lot of just simple quality of life things, like being able to swap Pokemon without being next to a PC, stuff like this.
You can turn off the prompt for nicknames, which I was really happy about.
Right. A couple little sequences was like, oh, the option to skip a tutorial in a Pokemon game? My God, this is a lifesaver.
Yeah.
And then even like, there were some sections early on where it's like, what is this? I have to use a potion on my main? Like, it's for the first 15 hours of the last several Pokemon games, I feel like I don't need to use items whatsoever.
Like it's a little more challenging than you expected.
I would not say challenging, but at least like,
you had
to use 13, something like that.
Yeah.
Onix is level 26. I was like, this is awesome. This is what I want from a Pokemon game. Then you start to see through the cracks, and it's like, okay, he's only using stat effect moves, so I don't know how rigged he is and if it's like a plant out of the gate.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, it doesn't matter. I can catch this MFer. This is going to be great. And then, oh, no, you can't catch it. It's too high of a level.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's the point of the gyms, is that you can catch them, but you can't control them. Like, they already have a way to gate you for that. So why add this new, soft, arbitrary thing?
I agree with you. I don't think it would break the game in any way at all for you to get those Pokemon
Instead,
early.
it just says it won't let the guard down. Like, what the...
Other than their insistence, which is interesting to me because my kid is really getting into this game, which is like exciting for me because I know I talk about her a lot, but like she doesn't really like video games that much. So it's like been cool to see her playing this, and like she needs those tutorials. You know what I mean? She like I think that's why it's that way. Is for young players. They don't want them to catch Onix and be frustrated that they can't use it and not understand why.
You could have a tutorial explaining that you need the gym badge to control it.
I'm not saying it's like good. I'm not saying I want it to be that way. I'm guessing that that's their perspective on it.
That doesn't make sense. They can just do one more tutorial explaining the basic concept that's been in there since the beginning of Pokemon.
Yeah, I agree.
Wouldn't your kid be more frustrated, though, if they actually beat the enemy expecting to be able to catch it and then they can't catch it, though?
Yeah, okay, here's what I had to explain it to her because I had already figured it out. So, like, I'm trying to think of why they would have done that because there is a system in place to make the game not break for you to have a high-level Pokemon early. But
right.
It's weird.
It's weird. Beyond that, it's so bizarre, so whistle to make them come towards you. It's just like, again, these layered systems where it gets to the point of, hey, I think there's just no point in having tall grass anymore, which is fine. Take that step and evolve as a series.
Yeah.
You don't need it. And so it's bizarre.
When they showed that you were still getting jumped out at in tall grass. Like
Jumped out at in
tall
what do you
grass.
Mean? Random attacks.
Yeah, like just walking through the grass, random attacks. Like they took that out for Hey You, Pikachu, and Eevee, which was very exciting.
Right.
And then like it seemed like they what did I say? Hey You.
Yeah.
Then it seemed like this is great. Like
so it's just in the first trailer I think it showed a Pikachu in the very first trailer attacking you. So I remember us talking about that, and it was like, oh, it looks like they're going back to random encounters.
That's
the weird twist that I'm getting at.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
Why do it though? What's the point of grass at all anymore?
Yeah, like you would prefer that like there not be any random grass.
I just want to see all the Pokemon. And
I got that. I'm just saying it's a messy system as it is right now. Taking this half step.
You're telling me,
but if you can see the Pokemon, then you can avoid them, right?
Yeah, correct.
So is it just that they want to have areas where you can get ambushed?
Yeah,
and like be forced to fight?
I guess so, just to try and make sure you're leveling up. It's not annoying. Like I don't mind the random encounters. I just think it's an unclear system right now, which
seems unnecessary in 2000.
Yeah, because it's also like it's just a weird thing because you can see them in areas, you can lure them outside of the grass, which is weird to see in a Pokemon game. But then also in the grass, there's also exclamation points that'll pop up. But then also if you avoid those, then you can still be randomly encountered. It's a weird thing. There's a lot of weird details in this game overall, and like it's bizarre now to look in retrospect at Pokemon Sun and Moon and be like, hey, that game we're all kind of annoyed by how much it holds your hand. Like that was the weird one, ladies and gentlemen. That was them getting the furthest away from their comfort zone, just the way the gyms worked in that game. There's so many odd details in Pokemon Sun and Moon. And now with the Switch, the way they were phrasing it is they wanted to make, with first entry on the console, real entry, new entry. They wanted to kind of.
There's always that asterisk.
It's a weird one, but like we want to go back to basics to some extent.
Yeah.
And so I know a lot of people online are frustrated, but like it just feels so standard, even though they are making these small steps in the right direction. I totally get it.
It looks a little different, but it plays pretty standard, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, several people left comments on Patreon talking about this. I know it's a talk of the internet as well, but I think it is totally fair to be frustrated with Game Freak. I've been to the studio multiple times now, interviewed those guys for hours, and it's still playing this game at times I want to pull my hair out of it. It's like, this is the biggest media property in the world. This will be one of the best-selling games.
Already is, I believe, right? The best launch for Switch, period, I think. It's
okay, but still, I mean, it has even a chance if you combine them of beating like Call of Duty this year. You know, it's just going to be a juggernaut. And this is the level of production we get? Like, no VO, there's still the weird pop-in. It's just frustrating on so many levels where it's like, if you just took the amount that this game makes and put it in another ecosystem with other developers that aren't so beholden to the past, you can make something cleaner. And they had years to make this thing. And I'm not saying like lazy devs or anything. They're working their asses off. It's just
a small team, right?
They're in a certain rut, right? And it's tough to get out of that groove. And even when they're taking small steps to evolve, just little things that are like, first of all, the music, it's solid, but I think just the quality, it's like just, it'd be nice to have an orchestra at this point. It's 2019. But then at the same time, Pokemon cries. Like, I know that Masuda loves the old school Pokemon cries because he created them.
Yeah.
And when he's the producer and he's running the show over there, obviously he's going to have some callbacks. But it's just a mess now because popular wisdom is that Pokemon only say their names. That's only in the anime. They've never gone near it in the games outside of like Let's Go. They had Pikachu and Eevee kind of make different sounds, right? It's just a jumbled mess where they still do these gross, old, archaic, somewhat digitized cries, but then they also have speech bubbles for like cat-like Pokemon that say meow, and it's like, just get on the same page as a brand for what sound these stupid Pokemon make, for the love of Christ.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff bothers me less, but I think what you were kind of getting at a little bit, at least, is like the sort of lack of technical proficiency that they seem to always continually be like coming up short on.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like technical shortcomings. They're not problems. They don't really draw the experience down that much.
Right.
But it's kind of like the shadows and characters are popping in here. Like, that's you can't make the draw distance a little further for these characters and stuff like that.
And you know, when they're on this relatively tight turnaround of having to get these Pokemon games out the door, I understand it, but it's to the point where it's absolutely fair to be frustrated by this stuff.
I mean, they had to save their entire budget for Luigi's Mansion 3, right? The most immaculately produced Switch title to date.
It looks good. And like there's parts of this game that do look good, right? I mean, just having it on the TV, there's little details like, seeing the posters in the houses and stuff like that. Like there's more detail packed into this thing than I would think.
The Switch in the bedroom looks like a Switch.
It's an amazing Switch. And did you see that awesome thing too, where the Switch in the bedroom, if you change your Joy-Cons on your actual Switch, it matches the color of your physical Joy-Cons, which is cool. Like in real time, which is such an awesome little touch. But yeah, it is frustrating. And like I know people are upset about the Pokedex, and that's fair as well. I'm in the camp of I'd rather play with a bunch of new ones. It's not the end of the world for me, but it is just like, God, I know Game Freak is trying their hardest. It's just at some point, if I could snap my fingers and have it developed by a separate team wholly within Nintendo, I think I would snap my fingers at this point.
Yeah, I think that's one of those. Okay, I think you see that with a bunch of different developers where it's like, it's very easy for us to be like, well, this game made $1 million, like billions of dollars, so like now they can do something big. But I kind of understand it. Like maybe it's not the best way to go, but I understand when a developer gets really successful like that they don't want to just hire an extra 100 people to make the next big one.
That's exactly
There's kind of that drive of like, like this is the team that made it. We like the people that we're working with. We want to continue doing that.
But I think that's exactly the same situation that you ran into with like Bethesda Game Studios, right? Where it's like, hey, we have a bunch of old timers out here in Maryland. We're going to keep this rolling, and then you go from Oblivion to Skyrim. It's like, that's a buggy mess. What are you going to do? Let's make Fallout 4. Oh, it's a buggy mess. What are you going to do? It's like, I know. At some point, you need to embrace the size of your franchise.
And as fans, we're
sorry, there's just
another bug.
Giant insect.
Throw a Pokeball at it.
I thought it's supposed to be like cold now.
But hang on, I'm gonna go kill this insect.
It is cold, which is why they're all coming in.
Yeah.
They're like,
heard you were talking crap
studio
about
size.
Pokemon.
You were yelling about that, Jeff.
Yes, but that is like, and I think that every time I play a Bethesda game of just like, come on, man, like hire more people that can actually get around this hurdle. But I can see
the guy whose specialty is not falling through the world. That guy's out there.
Or like
specializes.
I guess to Bethesda's credit, like they have done that where it's like, I think for Fallout 4 they brought in someone from like the Destiny team or something to help.
That's such an easy marketing beat. Like now the gun's going to be good because this guy worked on guns. Like,
but it's like sometimes you just
Howard impression.
as fans playing the game, we want the big overhaul, you know, and I can appreciate when a studio wants to.
Well, yeah. I mean, talking to Game Freak while visiting the studio for the Game Informer cover story, that was an interesting message. Is like from when we were out there in 2017, Kyle, they were like 100 people. Now they're around 200 people. They still have a lot of outsourcing and contract out with different folks to help with the game overall. But yeah, it's like realistically, you look at a team like the Destiny team, which is over 500. It's like compare the sales of those games. It should be insane. But it is just Masuda and kind of Game Freak's weird indie roots where they're like, we want to keep this small. We want to keep it manageable. Masuda made the comparison that he's like, it's like branches off a tree. You want to keep the tree nice and pruned and sharp just so everybody's aligned and on the same page. Otherwise, if we have to explain what Dynamax is to 400 different groups of developers, like it's going to be a disaster. Yeah. It's going to fall apart. And I understand that the downside of that is that it's not as ambitious as some fans would want at this point. But it's like, well, got to give credit to Game Freak. They're the ones stoking the fires. They created this stuff. Anybody like Masuda that wrote as much amazing music as he has, like I'll let him do whatever he wants with Pokemon, I guess.
Yeah.
But still, I snap my fingers.
Yeah, and I think it's especially frustrating with them because the Switch came along and it's like, okay, now the handheld is the console.
No way out,
to make the console game.
Yeah.
It's like,
I guess. Overall, it is that feeling of like, hey, we kind of had it with Let's Go. Like, is this it? Is this the console RPG we want? It's like, well, not quite. Wait for this next version.
Leaning in that direction.
And then this version's out, and as I'm playing it, it's like, is this what I've wanted for the last 20 years of being a Pokemon fan? It's like, I guess it's close enough. I wanted that big moment of where I can pop a champagne bottle and say, yes, the console RPG that I always wanted.
After you walked around the wild area a little bit, you like corked the bottle back and you're like, eh.
I know, I popped it. It was just flat.
Yeah.
So the cork just kind of dribbled out.
All of that being said, I which I agree with you on all those points, but like I'm still really having a good time with it. Like I'm like weirdly.
Yeah, look, I love the game too.
Yeah, I'm liking it more than I thought I would. Like I really, because I guess because even if it's incremental, it still feels like a step forward, even if it's a small step compared to the past. And like it's been awesome to watch my kid play it and like truly embrace it and really get into it. And it's like, and that's because like she hasn't really done that. She's only recently started reading and stuff like that. And to like
her first sentence she read was "Game Freak lied," right?
Yeah, that's right.
She started reading and
she was talking about.
She started reading and you knocked the book out of her hand and said, "Play a video game instead."
Yeah, is that bad parenting?
No, that's good. You're doing it, Kyle.
But it's just it's been funny, even like little things like she was forgetting every single move. Sorry,
every time Hanson looks over now, it's like, what terrible insect is behind me now?
Scanning has just become EDF in the studio now, just waiting to see where bugs are coming from. I'm sorry, you're talking about your daughter.
Which I know annoys you, but this is like
it's like annoying.
It's just annoying. This is like an interesting time for her, and it's like fun. It's fun to sort of teach her Pokemon. Like both my wife had to go through this big process last night because she didn't fully understand how like forgetting moves works. So she was like way into the game and only had like one fire attack.
I'm still confused by that.
And like so we had to sit down with her and be like, okay, we're gonna go to the Pokemon gym. We're gonna get a bunch of your moves back. And then she was just like flabbergasted because she was so powerful and she was just ripping through everybody.
Right.
And it was super fun as a parent who like knows this franchise and like to see her like get into this game in a big way. And it happens to be that this is the one where it's happening. And
fine,
it's
Jeff and I will adopt a kid already. Jesus Christ.
Together.
What's the are you annoyed as well by the Wycom stuff where it keeps showing up in the screen and I can't find a way to turn it off, but it wants me to just like send stickers where it's like, hey,
I like it in
Ben
theory.
caught some turds. Like, what? I don't want that on my screen.
I like the idea of knowing like what you're doing, what you're catching.
What?
Like,
That's what the game is for. What do you mean?
No, but I mean I love looking at other people's achievements when I'm playing a game at the same time. Just it's like, oh, how far are they compared to me?
Yeah.
Like I like that stuff, but like it is like way overbearing. It feels like it's like I want, if you give me the manual choice to go check in on my friends list and be like, oh, what's this guy doing? What's Ben doing? What's what's my wife doing? Like that's cool, but to just be like thrown on screen constantly is kind of like, I don't think I need all this.
Maybe there's a way to turn it off, but I certainly can't find it. And for a game that I realistically just want to play a lot by myself, maybe I'll eventually experiment and battle other people and stuff. That's the point. But I haven't gotten to there yet, so I just want to ignore that for now.
Turn off Wi-Fi maybe? Airplane mode it?
Maybe. Wi-Fi? It could be. All right, let's give you the Cal test. How would you describe the character of Hop without describing...
Obnoxious.
Okay. He's a real go-getter.
At least that's a personality.
He loves Lee.
Yeah.
His big
he's
old
around
buddy.
a lot. And he's always wanting to fight you.
I like the detail of like the professor's granddaughter or daughter. I think it's granddaughter.
Yes.
Okay.
Spawn, we'll say.
Sure. But I like the idea of she's like an adult and she's also being kicked out of the house the same time that like you 10-year-olds are going on your first Pokemon adventure, where it's just like, so it's like this weird discussion where it's like, oh, I guess even adults have to get kicked out of the house sometimes. So she's like, I guess I'll journey with you guys and try and figure out what this dog is.
I hope that's Detective Pikachu 2 is like following a 10-year-old getting kicked out of their home and like making a life for themselves.
Yeah, that'd be nice. So yeah, I'll finish it. I mean, it is comfort food. I'm happy to be in a place.
Well,
baby.
that's why you're all riled up about this stuff.
Quid Pro Pokemon
Are you doing
Go.
a bug scan? Is this what you're doing?
No. Call of Duty
Poke Pro.
Wonderful data miner on Reddit goes by Siniscalo. He dug through apparently Modern Warfare, and he is to be believed because he also leaks some multiplayer maps, which now they're trickling out. So everything's with a big grain of salt. Right. But it certainly seems like the inevitable is happening, and Modern Warfare is getting some sort of battle royale in the future. He says early 2020, which is interesting, but it's really confusing exactly how it's going to be released. Like if it's going to be part of Modern Warfare, if it's going to be a standalone thing. I'm guessing it's probably a fusion of the two.
I would certainly hope that it's part of Modern Warfare in some way. I mean, are you talking like whether it's going to be paid or just in something that they're adding to the live services?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, also whether they make a standalone version of it, of like is it going to be a free to play version? Probably. And then maybe if you own Modern Warfare, you can launch it from Modern Warfare's menus, but then also have some advantages if you've actually paid for Modern Warfare. Like you get some custom skins or something like that.
Sure.
Like, seems like a good middle ground, right?
Interesting.
Just to try and be better prepared for the future. Even though Call of Duty already launched their Battle Royale this year. Another one besides Blackout with Call of Duty Mobile.
Oh, yeah.
Did you play that, Kyle?
Extensively. I reviewed that game for IGN.
Really? The Battle Royale version too? Because it took a while to get to that.
Not as long as you think.
Oh, really?
Because I think it's like level, I don't remember what the level was, but you get there really quick.
Right.
But yeah, that Call of Duty Mobile is solid. Like it's
Really?
Yeah.
I started it.
I played a lot of it.
Okay.
So I'm going to weigh my opinion a little heavier than yours.
Sure. You probably play more mobile games too, though.
I suppose that's true. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think the Battle Royale is like a fully featured Battle Royale. Like the big sort of hurdle for that game is playing it on a phone. You know, like the touchscreen controls are not great, but like
the basic way you're controlling, interacting with the experience,
but I mean,
sucks.
But the sort of like the way it functions, the way it looks, the sort of interactivity you have with it, and like using items and finding things, and the size of the map, like that stuff did not feel pared down for mobile.
Right.
So I was impressed with it.
Sure. So what's leaked about this version is 200 players. Which, everybody knows, the more the merrier.
It'll change the game significantly.
The better the servers.
Absolutely.
I mean, all the other ones are 100, right?
Right.
At this point?
Blackout eventually worked its way up to 100.
Yeah.
Although there are some games that have like 60, and they're like, that's close enough, Battle Royale, right?
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
You can't tell the difference.
It really is.
I mean,
Apex Legends, it's totally fine. The fun thing, the most interesting detail is here, it's like, okay, it's pulling areas from like Spec Ops missions and stuff like that. But the respawn system, apparently, it's based on respawn tokens. And this is from Siniscalo on Reddit here. He says, after one use, respawn tokens are disabled for the player. To respawn a teammate, obtain a respawn token, then drop their body near an ambulance. Once the body is dropped at the ambulance, the player will enter the gulag queue for a chance to win a 1v1 and respawn into the match. Which is a very fun
so this
little
is American
system.
Healthcare.
That's right, baby.
Right. Way to get political, Serial. Yeah, the gulag system is really interesting to me.
Gulag system.
Yes, but the idea of doing a 1v1 match in order to try and earn your way back into
it's super fun.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Those other details make me wonder, like, how efficient or like how like if you're actually going to be able to pull that off. The idea that like you have to find a token and then you have to carry your co-op partner's body to a certain place on the map.
It'll be forgotten by a majority of players.
Yeah,
I'd imagine.
like you're just going to get shot in the head in the first 30 seconds anyway.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
But the actual 1v1 part sounds interesting to me.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I was at Infinity Ward for the Modern Warfare cover story trip. It's a lot of cover story trip and travel talk this episode. But they were so cagey about like not ruling out that a battle royale is coming, and like asked about it. It's like, we like that mode. Right now we're focused on these. And I think, maybe the Call of Duty community clearly understood, but I felt like the wider game industry was not listening to what they were saying about like, there's no battle royale. It's like, well, no, it's not what they're saying. They're saying right now we're focused on this. And so I think it's very clear this thing's coming.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was just me, but when we were talking about Call of Duty, like I felt like the multiplayer offerings were smaller this year.
Yeah.
Like it didn't feel like there was a lot of stuff. I know they added Kill Confirmed after the time that we talked about it, but it still feels like there is a pillar that has been missing from that formula.
A functional co-op mode?
Yes. Well, that too.
Yeah. Are you still going back to Call of Duty at all?
I haven't for a while. We'll see. I mean, I would like to go back and play more of the
gunfight.
Gunfight, yes.
It's not gun
How
game.
do I forget that?
Yeah, don't be an idiot.
Gunfight, and if they released the Battle Royale, I certainly would go back. So.
Yeah, for sure. Kyle, did you check out much of Minecraft Earth?
Not a lot.
Okay.
I went through like the sort of tutorial a little bit, and it was like more Pokemon Go than I expected.
Yeah,
like you're still going,
for sure.
You're still going to places and tapping things. I thought it was going to be. For whatever reason, maybe I just misunderstood what the game was. I didn't think it would be quite such a Pokemon Go inspired game.
Just to have that map overview and stuff. Yeah, I started as well, and I made the build in my living room. Okay. And I was like, idiot, like, is there some way to save that? Because I couldn't figure out how to save that in that location.
I haven't gone deep enough with it, but yeah, I thought it was just going to be more like AR focused. Because the weird thing about Pokemon Go forever for me will be like how everyone pointed to it as like augmented reality is the future. Look how big Pokemon Go is. And I'm like, guys, unless you're talking about the GPS being the augmented reality element of it, everybody turned that feature off within an hour of playing that game. That's not why the game is interesting. That's not why it's cool.
Yeah.
But I thought, I was like, well, maybe this could actually use that in an interesting way. So I'll keep playing with it. But yeah, my initial reaction was like, oh, this isn't quite what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. No, I think the AR stuff is cool. It's nice to have a cool Minecraft structure, like sitting in my living room, for example.
So are you like just you putting blocks on surfaces that are in your living room?
Yeah. So you're walking around and collecting different Minecraft objects and stuff, and then you can rearrange it and reshape it and stuff, and you actually have to walk around to
there's
do it.
Some ideas of like you can make structures that other people will see, or you could work together on larger structures.
That's the part that I'm confused about where that is exactly, because
it seems cool. Yeah. Like, it seems cool on paper for sure.
Right now it's still in beta. Like, it crashed multiple times on iOS for me. So
on par with Pokemon Go so far.
Exactly.
That's not what people like about Pokemon, you guys. They didn't like that it was bad at launch.
Good name though, Minecraft Earth.
Yeah.
Great name. Okay, so last unveiled a bunch of stuff. New Obsidian game, which is crazy timing. Grounded, which is their take basically on Honey I Shrunk the Kids, except a survival game, which is falling in that strange camp where Microsoft is, they did the same with Ninja Theory's new game, where they say, like, this game was in development before we purchased them. Like, don't think that this is us.
We don't actually like this, but we're going to go ahead and release it.
Well, I'm sure it's like, okay, I guess survival game for 2020, that seems like a safe enough bet. We're not going to cancel it, right? But just don't think that, like, this is the reason we bought Obsidian, because I'm sure that still came from the phase where Obsidian was independent and really trying to hustle, and they see Fortnite and they think, okay, let's try and make a game somewhat inspired by this, trying to capture the zeitgeist, because we're trying to court publishers, which is a challenge. And now it's just this weird leftover thing where it's like, okay, let's keep rolling with it.
And Microsoft doesn't want people to think, oh, we hired this amazing RPG story developer, and now we're forcing them to make a survival game.
Yeah. And I guess it's a relatively small team overall and stuff, but I'm excited for it. I like the setting a lot, just being shrunk down in the backyard.
Yeah.
Very
we
good.
need Cork here. His mind would be exploding right now. But.
They talked about it a little on the Game Informer show.
That's true.
Believe it or not, Jeff Cork was very intrigued by it.
Daddy-like is what he said. A lot of other announcements here and there. We made a video kind of recapping the biggest stuff. Age of Empires 4.
Of course.
You jackass. It was very fun seeing the amount of people in the chat, and maybe because they teased that they were doing something with Age of Empires 4 there.
Asking what Age of Empires is?
How dare you? No, everyone was saying Age of Empires, get to Age of Empires 4. Like, people were screaming.
I like Relic.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. No, you're supposed to insult his love.
Company Heroes is great.
But it's been years.
There you go, that's close enough.
Since they announced Age of Empires 4, and now they finally showed a gameplay gameplay trailer and revealed the setting, because for years now no one's known what the setting is, and it turns out the big setting is Age of Empires 2 again. It's like, okay,
that was disappointing for you?
A little bit.
What would you expect? What did you want?
Honestly, it's just weird because they just last week as well launched the Age of Empires 2 second HD edition of it, right? And so it's just weird messaging to have those overlap in a way. And I'm sure they just looked at the numbers, saw Age of Empires 2's sales, and said, okay, let's do this. But I would have taken a new era, or I would have go back to Age of Empires 1. Because I have a very soft spot in my heart for just the early tool age type of stuff. Like, I think that's still interesting. But they also announced that they have a name for a studio within Microsoft that's overseeing all Age of Empires production. Like, still Relic's developing Age of Empires 4, which is exciting, but now they have World's Edge as Microsoft's official Age of Empires studio, which is very
flat
confusing.
Earthers.
Big flat earthers. There's no doubt about it. Well, yeah, I mean, you look at the map in the corner of Age of Empires. It's a little flat Earth.
I'm a little confused by this. Like, so they have Relic is making it.
Yeah.
But they have like another studio overseeing it within Microsoft?
Yes.
Is it a popular enough franchise that they need, like, I understand that they have like a Halo team.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't be making fun of it, Kyle.
Ooh.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a weird structure, right?
Yeah.
Like, that implies that they're going to be doing more with the franchise, which is exciting. Hopefully we can see that MOBA coming soon. Who knows, right? But I think it's also
play as Saladin versus Joan of Arc.
Yeah,
that sounds kind of cool.
But in terms of like Microsoft doubling down on some of its biggest franchises, like, it's rare to have something around as long as Age of Empires. It's been over 20 years now at this point, right?
Yeah,
I guess franchise.
I guess I'm just like, why isn't Relic just like in charge of it? Like, why? Because they're just not Microsoft.
Because they're not Microsoft. Yeah, you need to have a Big Daddy corporate.
It feels like if 343 was basically contracting out Halo to other developers.
Which, to be fair, that's a great point, because that's originally what 343 did. right? Is they were originally just founded, and it was like, okay, Bonnie Ross and folks, and they're going to contract out. And I think they contracted out with Gearbox originally, was the idea that Gearbox was going to make Halo 4. And then they quickly realized, you know what, let's just build up a whole internal team. And
you don't want them anywhere near Marines.
But the biggest news or biggest takeaway, I guess, from the XO19 was just them continually pouring more benefits into Game Pass.
Yeah.
It is to the point of absurdity. Like, okay, so you can pay $1, and for the first 3 months, you get access, obviously, to all of Game Pass. You also get, Xbox Live Gold. Access
for
to
Ultimate, yeah. For if you have there's Xbox Live and then Xbox Game Pass and then Game Pass Ultimate, which also has Xbox Live Gold on top of that.
Right, but that's still the $1 thing.
Right.
Then you get access to 250 games, 1 month VA access, 3 months of Discord Nitro, 6 months of Spotify Premium, and then also next year they're going to be introducing their streaming, the Project xCloud, xCloud 2 Game Pass. I was thinking about it, like, if Game Pass was just Gears of War 5. You would have access to one game. Still getting it for $1 for those 3 months would be worth it. And be like, are you crazy not to do this?
It's
everybody out there?
It's better than Redbox.
It's insane what they've done.
Well, it's because everyone Stadia's out, which I guess I haven't touched it at all. But I think a lot of the articles surrounding Stadia, like leading up to it and even now, are like Google's trying to make the Netflix of video games with Stadia,
which was wrong.
And I feel like you can point to Game Pass and be like, I think this is a lot closer.
Oh yeah,
you know
of course,
what I mean?
Of course.
But no one sort of equates those together for some reason.
And it's also actually playable that way.
Yeah,
right. Because you don't have to worry about latency or how your
own
internet's going to be
the
streaming.
games are on your console.
Yeah, you just have to worry about bandwidth.
Yeah, being able to download it.
Right. And also, it's crazy because you look at, I always saw it as like, that's kind of offset. I don't know what it's like. But you look at Game Pass on PC, which is a separate thing that you can get if you don't own an Xbox. But even that, it's like, you're crazy not to take that if you're just a PC gamer. Like, they are being so aggressive in the run up to next generation that it's a stupid thing not to subscribe to. And to be fair, I wasn't subscribed until this last weekend where I was testing tech in the studio with my Xbox One. I was like, all right, you got me. I guess I'll look at this.
They're really generous about, because like when I went to E3 last year, they had like these little coupons for Xbox Game Pass, and it was like, here's like a year of it. And so I had just put in that code right before it expired, so I had like however many months of Game Pass left. And when I signed up for that deal for $1, it basically turned all of that time from Game Pass to Game Pass Ultimate. So it was like this weird, like, okay, well now I suddenly retroactively got a whole bunch of months of this other service. So they really want you in that ecosystem. And it's making me think that like Project Scarlet is like almost secondary to Game Pass to them, and like going forward into the future is like, this is their number one. Like, this is Microsoft's Xbox, is like the idea of Game Pass. Like even more so than having another console.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
and which they must be looking at Netflix and saying, we want to do this. Like,
and no one else is stepping up in a big way in the gaming space.
That makes so much sense for a business model for video games.
Even if we're losing a ton of money at this point, let's just do it. I mean, and again, at the XO19, they announced, like all these Final Fantasy games, all the remasters, stuff like that are going to be coming to the Game Pass. Old Kingdom Hearts games.
Yakuza,
Yakuza. It's just insane.
And that stuff makes it worth it, because it's like, before it would be like, oh, well, there's like, I already played it on PlayStation, or like, here's a port that's coming down that you would play the normal way. It would be like less exciting. But the idea of like, also all of this stuff is included with this ongoing subscription thing. Like the fact that like, oh, I actually have not played that Final Fantasy X remaster. Yeah. I may as well do it. Like, I have it already. Like, whenever it comes out, like the fact that makes those announcements more exciting than they would have been otherwise.
Right.
Which is like a cool, like, this is like their way of striking out and saying like, we don't need to be the best, the most popular console people. We just need to latch onto the subscription service and make that our thing.
It is absolutely, even if you're not an Xbox gamer, it is to the point that if you're considering buying a new game on PC, or there's a game that you've wanted to play, just like double check to make sure it's not on Game Pass. Because again, $1, you set a reminder in your phone to cancel it after 3 months. Like, that's absolutely worth it. It's insane not to go through that library.
And also kind of scary about like the future of games, though.
Yeah.
Because like we are being incentivized now to, I mean, I always had a problem with buying games digitally, because I do like actually owning it, like, so when you have the physical copy, you have the rights to it that you are ceding when you buy stuff digitally. But this takes it that further step of like, there are games on Game Pass that I would have bought and I would have wanted to keep in my collection, but now I have temporary access to them, you know, which I don't mind because it's a great deal for me. But what is that going to do to the future of games? I guess hopefully they are compensating these game companies well. At least well enough for them to sign on for it.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, I'd love
it's
to
a brave new world.
Those deals, for sure.
Witcher was another one, wasn't it?
Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Yep, it's going to be coming for sure.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
Am I the only one excited for playing Halo on PC?
No, I'm super excited. Except I'm annoyed with the weird trickling rollout because it's like, okay, December 2nd, I believe it's going to be.
December 3rd is Reach.
Okay, 3rd is Reach. Yeah, it's like I just want to play Halo 1's multiplayer on Steam. I want to do that so badly, and I don't know when that'll be coming up.
So is Reach, as an owner of Master Chief Collection on Xbox One X?
I don't think you have access to it.
Is it exclusive to PC, or I have to buy
Reach?
No,
I
think it comes to, but like you don't get the PC version.
Oh no,
right?
yeah,
but
fine.
I think if you have I think you will get Reach on Xbox. It might be it might be DLC, but I don't know for sure.
I was playing Master Chief Collection as recently as like the last 2 months.
Really?
I randomly was just like killing some time. I was like, man, I haven't thought about ODST in a long time, and I played like the first 30 minutes of ODST just because it was like, oh yeah, Master Chief Collection is really great, you know.
Hey, did you see that Golem came out? Marty O'Donnell, the new VR game that for years it's been
PSVR exclusive.
I think so. Yeah,
I interviewed him about it. Like I feel like 2 years ago.
They've been so quiet for so long, and then I saw like one tweet like, "Man, it's out." Like, what? Hang on, let's see. Do you think people like it?
They, I know they released a soundtrack for it like a year ago, which is like on Spotify, and you can listen to it. But yeah, okay. So you're looking at we're looking at reviews. Is that what we're pulling up?
Yeah, hang on. There's Gollum on PC, which I don't think.
There's the character Gollum.
You're looking at the Metacritic for Gollum
as a
from
character.
Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, it's like a couple different.
But
reviews.
it came out with it definitely dropped with a whimper for sure. Like I haven't heard anyone talking about it really.
What was it supposed to be?
You were, I think if you want the premise of the game is like you're a little girl in a bedroom who can remote control these giant like rock creatures, and you're sort of exploring this labyrinth remotely.
Some sort of unnamed rock creatures.
Yeah. Okay. Don't know what that would be.
Golems. But and then it had the composer for Halo was working on it both, I think, in music and even a little bit of design as well.
Yeah, and then also the lead designer is Jamie Griesemer, who was a designer
on Infamous,
Second Son. Yeah, but before that, obviously. Halo, we interviewed him on the Game Informer show maybe multiple times. Yeah.
Oh boy, I see at least one score.
One review from Push Square has it at a 4 out of 10.
Okay. Is the little girl murdering people with the golems?
I think you're fighting other golems.
Has there ever been golem fiction where the golem isn't killing things? Is that what they do?
Typecast. That's messed up.
They're like protectors, right? They were like protectors of Jewish people back in the day. Like that's like the lore.
I don't know.
Is it really?
But they murder people, right?
I think so. Yeah.
You're into that?
Well, it's just weird that a little girl's controlling him to go around and murder people.
Maybe they changed it.
What kind of message are we sending? Hold on, let's Google the history of golems.
In Jewish folklore, a golem is an animated anthropomorphic being that is magically created and will never murder somebody.
Magically created by tiny girl.
That is magically created from inanimate matter, usually clay or mud. Mm-hmm. The word was used to mean an amorphous, unformed material in Psalms and medieval writing.
Okay.
Will you look at that?
And so this was PSVR Oculus, or was it?
Yes, PSVR. Let's move on. Okay. Let's not have an uninformed
What other
conversation
podcast will you have
Golem.
this exclusive coverage? You may as well be like a cover story that we've got rolling here. No one else will talk about
the deepest dive on Golem.
I was Googling Golem. I was just going to say, because I think we still want maybe at some point in the future for our Great Goaty Hunt do like a VR day.
Right.
And maybe I was just curious. It's like, we should put that on that list.
Great Golem Hunt. Absolutely. Yeah. So, Great Goaty Hunt is a stream we do every Tuesday. We let the community vote if they're a $10 supporter on Patreon. Since we're coming up towards the end of the year, I don't know how you guys are feeling, but like we have a lot of great games from 2019 in our back catalog that we can pull from, make people vote to decide what we actually stream every Tuesday and stuff. But we might have to start doing some of those rapid fire. Like I'd be up for streaming some just so we can squeeze in some of the big 2019 games that we missed because MinMax didn't exist. But that reminds me of supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/MinMax.
2 N's.
Thank you, Kyle. And a couple people
faster.
have been very generous.
So you've been inconsistent because sometimes you say it immediately, and then
how would
sometimes
you like
just
me to
ask,
do it?
I don't know.
It's always, I'm going to keep you guessing.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. But a lot of people support us at the $100 level, which is very sweet. If you do that, if you'd like to throw it in there as well, we put that in there. For $400, we will give you a shout out. Hey, if you have a small project you want to plug, a happy birthday message you want to send, anything you want to communicate.
We'll blow kisses.
We'll blow kisses. Anything you want to communicate over these microphones. We're more than happy to do it if you support MinnMax at the $400 level, which is very sweet and supportive. But it reminds me of Beating Down Brian, who supported us to get us out of the gate. A huge lifesaver there. God bless him. And then Richard Mady, hero of the people. This Richard Mady. He's the best. Speaking of VR, he says, hey everybody, check out To The Top, a VR platforming game that brings old school challenge with new school tech. The official PlayStation magazine gave it a 9 out of 10. It's now available on PSVR, Steam, and Oculus Home. And as Richard Mady insists that we say, To the top!
We did it.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
Appreciate it. Help spread the word. Hey, those slots are open, everybody. If you're listening to this and you have a project you want to plug or anything you want to plug in general,
It's not even slots, right? It's unlimited.
Don't say that. They're going soon.
Oh, yeah, we're running out.
Get your collector's edition of this shout out.
We had a lot of people, once more, leave a bunch of wonderful comments on our Patreon page. We have a post every week that says, hey, send us your greatest questions, words of wisdom, trivia, dares,
games,
thoughts. What I think it was like 120 over that or something like that, just for people leaving comments. It's amazing the amount of support that's there. Thanks everybody that writes in. I really appreciate it. I would love to whittle it down to some of the best ones, but they're all the best ones. But what do you guys think about this? Because I always love ending on trivia or a little game. What if instead of having question of the week, we had just game of the week, where every week we would just hope and pray that somebody sent in a fun little trivia game.
So it's not really the best of, it's this
just
week's.
You can expect a game every week.
And you would stockpile them.
And
if
we
there
would
were like
hope so.
3 1 week, we would spread them out. You'd have like a backlog of them.
Could
maybe.
be. Yeah, a little spare.
I like that. I like ending with that.
I always love ending
We
with
always
that.
like when people write in with riddles and
The greatest riddle of all.
quizzes and those kind of things.
Absolutely. Speaking of
How many
limericks,
N's are in the name?
I can never remember. Sophie writes in and says, just throwing it out there, I don't really want to be called a minx or whatever.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, Jefflin was pushing that, Sophie, like some effing maniac. She says, Min-Maxer is just fine. That's true. Although, one of the best I've seen, and it seems like people are like, yep, that's pretty good, is on the Shenmue stream yesterday. I told you there was a reason we had to stream Shenmue. Is somebody left a comment saying, just why not call them minions with 2 N's? It's like, oh, that's very good. Something evil about it.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit...
And just the fan art would be amazing.
That's true. I also like Mindy's, but minions with 2 N's is very solid.
Yeah.
Minions and Mindies I like.
Yeah.
Minxes I don't like.
Okay, teach their own. Blame this guy. Sophie says, also,
I'll take it.
I had
Sure.
no idea that Jefflin studied abroad in Hiroshima for a year. Hiroshima?
Yep.
Great. That's really neat. Hanson, your pronunciation of was causing me physical pain. How would you pronounce what I was saying a lot last week?
So desu ne.
Okay. Apparently I was doing it incorrectly, which is very hard to believe.
So decent? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so
So decent.
But apparently it's more complicated than that. Okay. Anyways, moving on. Randa Damron says, hey, Gals Got Moxie here.
Hey,
Hello.
it's Gals Got Moxie.
Gals Got Moxie.
She's there all the time.
2-part question with Thanksgiving looming. That's next week, y'all.
That's how you would describe Thanksgiving. Is it's
looming.
Well, kind of.
That's
depending
right.
on which side of the table you were on.
That's true.
How's
The pilgrims weren't nice.
Oh.
Think about it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What is it's been a while since I've watched the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving special or something. What is the actual story? Is there real history? There was one meal that everybody gathered around for? And
The
they said-
pre-genocide meal, I think, was the...
Yeah.
Okay. Is it okay? But seriously, like, what do you think?
You're gonna give it an okay.
Yeah, what is the
Look.
idea? It was
Pop
one-
Quiz
know-
Hotshot, describe to me the entire history of Thanksgiving that is
Yeah.
obviously accurate
It's
because you
name
know
the
it off the
top
top of your
five
head.
It started
genocides
well.
related
It
to
started well,
Thanksgiving.
right?
It all
Started well.
it's all well that starts well, as they say.
But we shouldn't brush over the fact that it did not end well.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true, you guys. The most historic, prominent Thanksgiving event in American popular culture is the 1621 celebration at the Plymouth Plantation, where the settlers held a harvest feast after a successful growing season. Okay.
Followed by the Macy's Parade.
Did they invite the native people? Look, there's a big Wikipedia entry. Everyone got to check it out.
There's some history behind this holiday, isn't there?
Save it for my Get a Load of This, where I read the entire Wikipedia article for Thanksgiving.
And now.
Anyways,
a filibuster for Get a Load of This.
Cal's Got Moxie says, do you all prefer turkey or the side dishes? Side dishes.
Like
Turkeys.
if you had to choose one over the other?
It's like any competitor versus the field. I feel like it's just like one turkey thing. Because like it's sometimes you don't even have turkey at Thanksgiving, or at least unless my family's weird. It's just like you just have a bunch of meals. Like it's not. I've never had turkey be the centerpiece of the holiday. I've never thought of it that way. Well, I mean, we've had turkey and stuff before, but I've never thought of it like, no, Thanksgiving is the one time a year you eat turkey, because I eat turkey all the time. It's just like that's just the one time that everyone brings a butt ton of food. Yeah, that's right. I'm over here with my Oscar Mayer turkey. That's right. I'm living, baby.
But I see what you mean. Thanksgiving is like a collection of meals.
Yeah, it's more about stuffing your face than having any particular one food. Right?
No, I think the point is people eat turkey.
It's turkey, yes.
Well, I know it's like the most popular food, but like I don't know.
The Pilgrims invited turkeys, and they all ate together.
And they said, rather than eat with these guys, we'll eat with these turkeys.
I mean, I don't think there's anybody that would say turkey's the best part of the meal. It's just the core of it, right? But everybody, it's like,
it's the main
you
dish,
take some sweet potatoes over that. You take some cranberries over that.
The stuffing.
Some stuffing. You take the crescent rolls.
Mashed potatoes and gravy.
Some pumpkin pie slathered over all that. Ooh, baby.
Yeah, basically you just pile it all on one plate and it mixes together.
I would take a baby, butt ton of food, and a baby.
I'll have a butt ton of food and babies. Just scoop them out of the tray.
Okay, buddy.
Take home with me.
The answer was side dishes, right?
Side dishes.
Yeah. But you still need the turkey there.
That's true.
Unless you did like a duck. I think some people do ducks.
That's outrageous.
Or any other waterfowl. Fowl.
You know what's going to be fun? Is I bet in that MinMax Discord, in the Good Eats channel, Thanksgiving, that's going to be popping.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
So yeah, subscribe now to see all those pictures.
Subscribe now.
Which really, I do enjoy that channel. It
is very nice.
I posted one picture in there. It's cool. And like, especially having people around Minneapolis where you can actually say, hey, you should go to this restaurant.
Oh,
that's cool.
yeah. It is nice. Every once in a while I pop over to those freak channels, as I call them, like the very specific things on the side. It's like, oh, there's people talking in here, even these little side rooms.
They're doing
It's just like me.
Look at these weirdos.
It's like the father at the sleep-in, like opening the door, like, what's going on in here? Oh, okay. You guys are having a good time? All right, I'll listen. Is that what you're like as a dad?
Thanks, Dad.
No.
Cool. Mattman McKenna says, are there any games you all have as a tradition for the holidays? The last few years, my family's been playing Jackbox Party Pack whenever we get together for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Occasionally, we'll even do a round of Smash Brothers or Mario Party. Ooh, what a hip family. Gaming traditions. The Wi-Fi at my parents' place sucks to the point that we can't play Jackbox, which breaks my heart. It is that
Should
slow.
buy them a router for Christmas.
Well, they're like, I don't know, it's like run off a tin can on the roof or something. So even that I don't think would really help.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Obviously with MinMax, we're going to branch out and do tabletop coverage probably sooner than you might think. But Jeff, if you had to recommend one tabletop game to bring
Thanks
home.
for putting me on the spot with that one. I'd say what's the one that we played in the park that one time?
Just one.
That's a good.
Which is the game of the year this year.
Yeah, I think you probably want to go with party games.
Super simple, and just one.
Yes,
has to be the
ones.
simplest tabletop game that's ever won Game of the Year, the Spiel des Jahres or whatever it's called. And it's almost like a streamlined version of Codenames in some way, which is again I think probably the best tabletop game ever made. But with just one, it is literally just okay. You have 5 words. You randomly choose a number. You get assigned a word. You can't see what it is. Everybody around the table has to write a one-word clue to try and get you to guess what the one word is that you can't see. The catch is that if people write the same word, then theirs gets canceled out and you don't get to see those. So everyone's trying to come up with different oddball one-word clues to get you to guess your one word that you can't see. Hilarity ensues every time. And yeah, it's super fun. I think it's more expensive than you think. It's a super simple game, but it's like maybe up to like $50 or something on Amazon. It's ridiculous.
Wow. All right.
It shouldn't be. That's probably if it was like sold out, so, especially if it won the Spiel des Jahres. Like those games usually sell out and then they're more expensive. But
that could be what it is. Yeah,
I want to say I saw it at half price. Sometimes it sells board games for cheap.
Oh yeah, I was way off. Yeah, it turns out, around $30 or something like that. But super fun. That'd be a great one to bring home to the family. Let's see. Also, you know what else is a tradition around Thanksgiving, Jeff Markiafava?
Falling asleep on the couch after you eat too much?
That's right. I'd argue it's giving thanks for the year.
Oh, right.
And no promises, but please keep your eye on MinMax's YouTube channel next week. Tim Laro says, what do you think will be the consensus game of the year this year? Set aside the MinMax race between Jumanji and Shenmue. What will be the 2 or 3 games that all the other outlets will be debating between
Outer Worlds.
For everybody else?
For most people, yeah.
Are you just thinking Giant Bomb? I think Giant Bomb's absolutely
I'm thinking, that there are people Game Informer wasn't the only outlet to rate both of those games pretty highly. I think that's going to be... I think those 2 games, I think, are a pretty good cross-section of everyone played it and everyone liked it.
It's the safe choice.
Yeah, I think. Those are the choice that hey, Control. I want to if I'm like a big fan of Control and I want people on my side, I have the most support there. Where even I think I don't know why, but there may be some reservations about Resident Evil. Is it a remake or not? Even the fact that question exists, even though it feels like either you love it or hate it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Control and Outer Worlds, I think, are both games where it's like everyone can kind of agree these are pretty good.
That's interesting.
Reeves was reviewing Control when we all got canned.
Yeah.
What was the Office vibe for Control when it came out? Were there more people who were playing it and super into it?
I think everybody liked it a fair amount. Yeah. It was not the talk of the Office from what I recall, but everyone was kind of, I think, a little bit in that camp of just played it, enjoyed it, That was about it.
Okay.
I think Resident Evil 2 is going to be... I think you make a good point. Resident Evil 2.
I can totally see that. I need to finish it. At some point, you guys, I need to finish that.
The ending will drastically change your opinion.
If you had to predict what ours is going to be.
Ooh. I don't know. That's tough.
I think that's going to be the problem that we're going to run into is I think we're all going to have very different lists.
Oh, wildly different.
Yeah. I'm still kind of a Control guy, still probably at the top of mine, but I'm liking Death Stranding. I'm liking Star Wars. I don't know. I don't even really feel like I have a good because sometimes around this time, you're kind of I kind of know where I'm leaning.
Yeah, there's always a difference between okay, I know that this game is my favorite of the year, but I don't know that I would be the person who's super adamant about no, this has to be game of the year.
Yeah.
So I'm just not sure what to bring to the table in that regard. Whereas I feel like I have a pretty solid the top 5 at least at this point, but we'll see.
Dominic Sachoki says, "Dear Min-Maxers, I don't respond to that. It's clearly Minion. No, I don't know. I don't know what we are. Are we also Minions? No, I don't think so.
We're the Gru.
We're the Maxians.
And then they're the 3 little girls that he's raising. You're Gru, and we're the 3 little girls.
Yeah, we're your golems or whatever.
It's true, Jeff. Well, don't shake your head.
What's one game this year you think has gone unfairly under the radar? Personally, I think Life is Strange 2 is one of the most interesting games out there right now, but has weirdly been ignored because of the long span between episodes. Yeah, no one has been paying attention to Life is Strange 2.
I actually was thinking about how I have a copy of Life is Strange 2 and I have not played it, but I always wait for those games to be over until I actually play them. So that's coming out, I think, December 3rd, maybe. So I think I actually plan to play it this weekend. Play the first 2 episodes and then the next 2 episodes. And then
you're at a point in your backlog where you can afford to play Life is Strange 2.
I want to be able to talk about it when it's out because I think that's been a small through line of when people do talk about it, they're this game's actually pretty good and you should keep it on your radar. So I've carved out a time to play it, and because it so perfectly fits into 2 hours, and then you can just kind of not invest any more time in it for a little bit. I think that makes it easier for me to actually separate that time.
Are you going to stream it?
Probably not. I just I don't know that people would get a lot out of it.
Sure.
Are we done with episodic games?
No, they just announced not announce their new game.
It's not episodic though, right?
It is, yeah. So they say the episodes are going to be releasing at the same time. I
think that it's going to be 3 episodes, and it's going to be 1 month after the other. But it's mostly done. They just want to have it presented that way.
Right.
So they want to present it poorly and in a way that will make me less interested in it.
That's right. Cool. Hey, did anybody listen to Dominic here? He says, what's one game this year you think has gone unfairly under the radar?
Mine is weird.
My mama. From Death Stranding?
No, I mean, Dreams is my answer for that, right?
100%.
Just continually underlooked, which I feel like we've talked about it a lot, so it's kind of a weird one to pick, but it's also us shouting into the void, like, hey, pay attention to this. This is already worth it. You should check this out.
Already worth it.
This has value.
Yeah.
Art has value.
Kyle's not allowed to react to this, but Baba Is You, the puzzle game, I think deserves more attention this year.
Did you finish it?
No. And look, with a game like that segmented, it's not like,
it doesn't really
it's not even like a Myst or something where it's like you need to finish. It's just like, hey, as your series of puzzles, I love the hell out of what I played.
It doesn't even have an ending. It's just you'll hit a point where you're like, okay, I think I did everything that's available.
I hit my difficulty cap, and all right, I've had a wonderful experience with that game.
It's a very cool game. Not one of my favorites.
Back off. Anybody have any suggestions?
We're just like fighting each other.
I think we're secretly angry at each other.
I'm sorry about the Metro comments and the
Everyone's on
Call
edge.
of Duty mobile comments.
It's the bug that
I'm glad you like Baba
Is
Is You. It's a very clever game.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Gamer Maker says, hey, Min-Maxers, here's a question for you. The Game Awards just announced the nominations for Game of the Year, and not one of them has been in the Great Goaty Hunt so far. Clearly, this is a shame, as Jumanji is the Game of the Year. Yep. But in all seriousness, what do you think of the nominations? Are there any games you would swap out?
Do they list the nominations? Or are we going to have to go fishing for them?
There's a lot to go through. You want to go through these? So Game Awards are going to be coming up in early December. No matter what.
We're all going, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Jeff Keighley came himself to our apartment and said,
I want to stream like reactions towards it, for sure. I don't know how many of you would be up for that, but I'll be doing it no matter what. All right, the Game of the Year nominations are Control, Death Stranding, Resident Evil 2, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, Outer Worlds, and Super Smash Brothers.
Luigi.
When this went up on Resetera and the big thread there, what game do you think was winning in the poll for
Smash Brothers?
Absolutely Smash Brothers.
Oh, interesting.
I think out of that list, slam dunk Smash Brothers in my mind.
Yeah,
that's not the game that's going to win, though. I don't.
So this is voted on by the industry.
Yeah, members of the press and industry. And,
right.
Yeah.
Somebody asked if they sent it our way. No, they did not. No. Min-Max will not be contributing to this one.
What's the biggest snub? Us.
The one that I looked at that list, I was like, oh, yeah, those are all good games. But then pretty quickly I saw people talking about Fire Emblem.
Mm-hmm. And
I was like, you know what? That does feel missing from that list. I'm not a big Fire Emblem guy, but like,
which one would you bump for it? Death Stranding.
Man, that's tough. Oh gosh, why is this so hard? I maybe Outer Worlds for if I was like a personal choice.
That's the one I would bump.
Insane.
And like
Kiwi likes to run these as a personal choice.
I finished Fire Emblem. That game's real good.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything about Fire
Not
Emblem.
perfect, but
roll. Hang on. Let's take our prediction. What do you guys think will win Game of the Year? Realistically.
Control, Death Stranding, Smash Brothers, Resident Evil 2, Sekiro, Outer Worlds. Among that list, man, I could see Death Stranding being kind of like the surprise,
industry people voting though, man.
Yeah,
that's what makes it tricky.
Yeah.
I think Outer Worlds.
I think Outer Worlds too.
It's like the kind of darling game of this year.
And but there is a character in Control named Darling. So that
very
game
smart.
changer.
Very smart.
And he's cast for like a goal.
Here's the very clear category: best game direction. We have Control, Death Stranding, Resident Evil 2, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice, and Outer Wilds.
I think Outer Wilds wins that.
Wilds.
Really? I think
that
Death Stranding wins that. I don't know, but that's me conflating what that category even means, which we talked about yesterday on the stream a little bit. Yeah.
Best narrative: Plague Tale, Control, Death Stranding, Disco Elysium, or Outer Worlds.
Disco Elysium, I would imagine.
Yeah. But I think that's probably, without having started, it seems like that's the narrative darling of the year.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
more people have played Outer Worlds.
Yeah, I think a lot of people haven't played Disco. I think a lot of the people are going to be receiving
and
this.
that's also why people like Outer Worlds,
Right. Best art direction: Control, Death Stranding, Grease. Was that this year? Is it late last year? Must have been late last year.
Yeah, it was like February or something like that. Yeah.
Sayonara Wild Hearts, Sekiro, or Link's Awakening.
I think Link's Awakening is probably
I could see Control take it too.
That's true.
I like Control's art direction a lot.
Although, what am I thinking? Death Stranding's art direction is obviously
I think Death Stranding's going to win, but I'm saying I would like to see Control win. I think Control is like a big contender there.
Best score: music, Cadence of Hyrule, Death Stranding, Devil May Cry 5.
Oh, why are you looking at me?
Because you love it. Because you love it, dude.
I specifically love the soundtrack.
Yeah, you walked into this unit today singing about a devil trigger and God knows what else.
Pull my devil trigger.
Kingdom Hearts 3 and Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Death Stranding will probably win that one.
You think?
Most prominent soundtrack.
Death Stranding and Sayonara.
Yeah.
I mean, don't be so serious. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
But I think Sayonara and Death Stranding are the two that I have been listening to outside of those games.
Oh, really?
Significantly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Big Low Roar fan now.
Honestly, yeah, it's like a modern Radiohead kind of.
Yeah,
like it's way. I don't know. Do you think that's true? Radiohead fan number one, Jeff Murphy Fava? Reminds me of Radiohead a lot.
What band did you just say?
Low Roar.
Low Roar,
the band in Death Stranding, basically.
Most of Death Stranding.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can.
Which is why I like
get that vibe.
Yeah. Okay, there's a lot of other categories. You can check it out online. Best performance, though, looks like it's.
Where's best performance by a human male?
Was that a thing?
I don't know. It used to be one of those categories.
Oh, really?
One of their categories.
Best performance, Ashley Birch as Parvati from Outer Worlds.
Very good.
Hang on. Can anybody now, after our deepest dive, tell me Parvati's last name? Oh, interesting. No, it is not. Holcomb.
Oh, yeah.
Courtney Hope as Jesse Faden from Control. Laura Bailey as Kate Diaz from Gears 5. Mads Mikkelsen as Cliff from Death Stranding.
He does
Norman
do a
Reedus
pretty good job.
as Sam Porter Bridges from Death Stranding. And Matthew Porretta as Dr. Casper Darling from Control.
I feel like Casper Darling is probably the best character.
Yeah.
But I actually really like Norman Reedus' performance. I don't think I don't think he's like a fantastic character.
Yeah.
But there are like specifically
some
of his subtleties.
I feel like that could also be a popularity vote too.
A little bit, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that
more
character would be a lot cornier.
I mean, I think Parvati and actually, I think
performance.
Darling actually have. I mean, I'm using the character names and not the actor names, but like Darling is like such a weird standout character that a lot of people liked in Control. I don't think it was it was a good performance. It was fine, but that's not the element of that game that stood out. It was just like he's just this weird scientist.
Yeah, he's maybe more important.
Mr. Max Payne himself.
Yeah. But he doesn't like. He's not like as much of a driving force as
you don't
Darling
walk up to a video and he explains something about the universe of Control for like 3 minutes.
Yeah,
every couple of
that's
steps.
a running theme though. Is that like characters who are really good at explaining the world, like Mama, and just the fact that here's Margaret Qualley explaining how motorcycles work and why you want to recharge them. Like that is such a weird thing to have a famous actor do.
I know. Yeah. I like it though.
Blake Prope says, hello, minimum maxers. Hello. At least people can play with it, you know? It's a toy name. Do you think it's sort of a weird conflict of interest for Jeff Keighley to be in Death Stranding and be best friends with Kojima? I know that people vote on the winners, just comes across as icky. Am I the only one thinking that?
It's not icky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's naughty and icky.
I don't think there's a conflict of interest because he's just managing the show. You know what I mean?
Well, where do the nominations come from?
Oh yeah, you know what? That's a good point.
I think don't you send them? I remember when we were at Game Informer, like Andy would have a thing where they like send us nominations.
Yeah, we would vote internally on who we should recommend as an outlet to be nominations. I think right.
Right.
Yeah.
Nominations for the Game Awards are selecting. Typo by a voting jury of 80 leading media and influencers.
Yeah.
Okay. So they do everything.
Keighley ostensibly does not have a hand in what gets nominated, right?
So there's no conflict of interest, but that relationship is icky.
Yeah. Seems that way.
Darth Icky.
Yeah. Like if Death Stranding wins, it regardless of whether or not it earned it, I think it's a weird look.
I mean, whether it wins or loses, that relationship is like his personal relationship. I don't want to see any more of it. It's just icky.
Yeah. What's he going to do, though? Not ask to be in the game? Come on. Ryan says, hello, crew. I surely can't be the only one who stumbled onto the secret of Death Stranding. It's obvious when I think about it, and I haven't seen it touched on anywhere else.
This isn't a spoiler, is it?
Yeah, why?
I don't want. I'm not. Don't spoil
Hideo
it.
Kojima's Death Stranding is a gritty reboot of Yoshi's Island.
Oh, okay.
It's all there. Sam Yoshi carries a crying baby from destination to destination.
There's that boss where you climb inside of him and you have to hit him in the uvula or whatever.
That's right. That's right. That his pants fall down.
Yeah.
You confront masked menaces.
Good points.
Are eggs poop?
You name
I don't
them.
think that's the case.
I mean, in Yoshi's
biology.
I mean, the alternative is way more messed up. Is that you're throwing unborn babies?
Yeah. Also,
Well,
he does eat something to produce an egg, right?
Yeah.
So
that's usually not how eggs work.
Yeah, I think in the world of Yoshi's Island, I think eggs are poop.
Eggs are poop. So Yoshi doesn't poop. He just flushes eggs on the toilet.
egg breaks open and there's poop inside there.
It's way more clean than what we do.
Yeah, I think. Hey, man, I think that's a great point. People don't talk about it enough.
Yeah.
Tis funny. Kyle, you did a weird video. Which I was annoyed by because you didn't take it seriously enough, about the similarities between Boktai and Death Stranding.
Yeah.
And like there weren't a lot of great points in there, but there was like 1.5 like interesting things.
Well, that's why I couldn't take it too seriously, because there's like one are two things that are like, oh, this is like. But then the other ones are like, well, I'm kind of like I'm grasping at straws here for the sake of making this.
I'm saying you should just lean into the specific things to get that message out there. Yeah. But like, it was crazy because like there's invisible enemies that leave like little black footprints. Yeah. That's super cool.
And you do have to carry packages around. I mean, they're coffins with Draculas in them. But
see,
yeah, you haven't seen every package that's Stranding. To be fair,
yeah. The reason I chose this is because when we did the rapid fire with Tezuka, the director of Yoshi's Island, that was one of the questions.
Are eggs poop?
No, is it worth confusing this polite old Japanese man? Like,
God, and the translators are probably just like deer in headlights. Like, do you want me to explain Kojima's concept of Strand games?
It took 4 minutes to explain the joke. Have you ever touched Fuzzy and got dizzy? And that brought everything to a halt. So let alone Strand game.
And we all know what a Strand game is now, right?
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
It's like Thanksgiving. Andrew Cantillo says, "Hey, MinMax crew, the recent Game Awards nominees announcement for Norman Reedus got me thinking of how the nominees are determined and to a larger extent." Oh yeah, he's just asking if we're involved. Yeah, no, we weren't. That's why I brought that up earlier. Weren't you listening, Andrew? Thank you for your
support.
Your
tweets to Jeff Keighley, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Victor Pham, should Google switch to a subscription service for Stadia? According to Jason Schreier, Stadia isn't doing so hot out of the gate, and Google need to do something drastic to turn things around. I don't think. Maybe they will turn to subscription in the future. That seems like a panicked pivot. I think, reviews came out and a lot of people are like, what's the point of this thing? It's missing features, And I'm not trying to defend Google, the biggest company in the world, but at the same time, it's like, it is just like a gross beta period right now. Like, don't buy into it. Obviously.
It doesn't feel like it's launched truly, right? It's just... A couple of early adopters are checking it out.
Yeah, and you can judge it, and reviews should be up for it, but I don't think the proof is in the pudding for Stadia until, I'd say, like later next year, once they have all those features in, and they get away from the Founders Edition stuff where it's just as literal as, here's a YouTube end screen, click here, and you can start playing the game. Like, that's when I think it could be amazing if it catches on and the tech works fine for everybody.
I agree. It's just like the proof sort of had to be to some degree in the pudding at this point, which is a weird thing to say. But I mean, if it doesn't succeed enough to get to the point where it's sustainable and it's like actually works, then it could fail before it gets a chance to actually do what it wants to do, right?
Yeah.
So I think at this point, don't enter their ecosystem until they've proven that they can that they justify their
but it's going to be a year of working out kinks. I can't imagine that it's failing to the point that they're like, pulling the plug, we're not going to go forward with it. Like, that would be truly insane.
Yeah, but that's kind of Google, right?
I guess.
They do that.
Yeah.
Even when some services of theirs are successful, they're just like, we're not going to do this anymore.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
James Smith says, "Hey, Ben, and the benchmarks?"
No. Okay. That doesn't have any min-max elements in it.
What is the biggest indie game ever made? Any game made by an independent studio, I mean. You can decide where to draw the line on indie in terms of funding, scope, and publisher relationship. The biggest indie game ever made.
I know the correct answer to this, so you guys can say it or not.
Should we all say it at the same time?
It's objectively the correct answer.
Correct. 1, 2, 3.
Minecraft.
Wait, what did you say?
He said Fortnite.
I said Minecraft. And you said
Minecraft. But does Fortnite?
I don't think Minecraft counts.
It's not indie now.
Yeah, it's not indie now.
It doesn't, but it was for years and years.
So right before Microsoft sealed that deal, then that was the biggest game. But Minecraft at that level, I think Fortnite is bigger than what it was then.
Did he phrase it as successful or
also biggest
Fortnite
doesn't count?
It's biggest.
Why not?
Because that's not independent though.
Yeah, Epic is actually an independent studio.
Yeah, it feels like semantics. I feel like when we use the term indie, we're talking about like small projects, or like where Minecraft was like this small project that grew. I mean, you're not wrong. Like Epic is an independent
you hear that,
publisher,
buddy?
but like when I hear indie game, I don't think Fortnite.
Well, of course not. But technically, like the biggest game made by an independent studio, independently released, I think it's Fortnite.
I still don't know if it's bigger than Minecraft.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
I think when it was indie, I think, yes, it is bigger than what it was then.
But you're saying since it's no longer indie, it can't be part of the discussion.
I'm saying the door slammed shut, and you had to cap it right when Microsoft purchased it.
But that was still already so huge. They bought it for $2 billion.
Right. It was huge, no doubt about it. Fortnite's bigger. And I think it's pretty objectively true what I just said, and we should move on. Witty nickname here says, I've been thinking lately about groupthink among game reviewers and would like to hear your collective thoughts. This is a great example. When the term biome has invaded essentially every review for any game containing multiple environments. I haven't seen that one. That's interesting. But definitely the brutalist architecture.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you guys think that happens?
Did they plant that seed themselves when they were talking about it in pre-release
and
coverage?
in interviews?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The first time we saw it at E3, they used that term.
Right.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons, I think it's an interesting question for sure. I think the reason that in particular took off is because even though I don't know anything about architecture, when they said brutalist architecture and I look at that game, like it just made perfect sense to me. Like that word defines what that looks like to me perfectly.
Because you need some word for it, and here's this term. And I think there is a little
the correct term, right?
Yes.
Right. But as somebody who doesn't write reviews, isn't there just a little bit of like, this is a smart term and I'm going to feel smarter for using this smart term now that I know this word?
Everyone has a different descriptor for that kind of architecture that muddies the idea of what it is. I feel like people using brutalist as a term because they were inspired by it. I get that, like, going in depth about it, I understand where kind of the idea that's like everyone is just kind of using the same reference points to talk about the game, and a lot of it can be based on marketing, right? If they brought it up, then it's totally fair. But it's if it's a term that catches on that is appropriate and describes it, I don't see the issue.
And from my understanding, though, it's not just a word that fits what we're seeing with our eyes, but that's like a form of architecture, right? That's an
it's like
actual
impressionistic
term, and
art.
that's the correct term. Like like we don't just say Gothic architecture because we think it fits a feeling.
Well, no, but I think
But his larger point is correct, that there are times when people
set piece moments, stuff like that.
Yeah,
right?
or like when interviewers describe their games in a certain way that makes sense, it kind of sits in your brain and people 100%. Bring it up.
Yeah, and it's, turns out brains are fragile things and they're infected by many things. Like I'm sure you've noticed, like if you start hanging out with a certain friend more and they keep speaking a certain way or using a phrase, you will adopt that phrase. And I think that absolutely happens within the game industry, from reviewers talking to each other, talking to developers, doing interviews, previews they read, trailers. It is inspired by these things, and it's not like as devious as developers going, the game is good, say it's good, and then they write the review, this is good, but it absolutely happens. And like, it's been really fascinating at Game Informer going on so many cover story trips and then seeing like previews written about the game after that, or even the reviews, and it's like, that phrase I remember them using, that phrase I remember them using. Like, it's unconscious, I'd imagine, but like on the Midnight Sun episode of The Twilight Zone, since it was mentioned on the Twilight Highlight Zone podcast a few times that he recalled the episode so much.
Yeah. Which you guys really screwed me with the Twilight Highlight Zone, because so that's really interesting. I think there are some plot points in there where it goes interesting and also disturbing ways that probably weren't handled well.
It was like a guy and a girl type of thing? I'm trying to remember.
A job of making you think about those concepts. And then at the end, the woman wakes up and she realizes, oh no, that was all a dream. But in reality, the Earth is moving farther away and everyone's going to freeze to death.
And she has a fever, and that's why she thinks it's getting hotter in her dream. But it's like, it's a cool episode overall, like especially like the effects of the paintings melting is awesome. That'll stick with me for sure. But it's just a dumb moment to have her wake up and be like, oh, thank God, it was all a dream. What's this? The Earth is moving away from the sun. Dun, 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 dun. It's just so stupid.
Stupidly awesome.
Yeah. All right. That's fair.
I just like the idea of a calamity. It's not zombies. It's not all these other things, but it's like this more scientifically based. I mean, it doesn't actually go into any science or anything, but that idea of like, oh yeah, there's nothing we can do about this. We're not advanced enough to deal with this kind of problem or escape it. Yeah. But it works in two different ways, which, it needs that Twilight Zone twist at the end.
It doesn't need it, but sure. Justin Griffith says, hey, Ben Hansen and friends, as professional game finishers, I don't know about that. Do you have any tips for someone who has a desire to complete more games, but has a really bad habit of bouncing from game to game and never finishing? Can you guys help me with this too?
No, none of us are qualified for that.
You review games.
Yeah, I think we are.
No, but my personal backlog pile of shame is huge.
Yeah.
Like if I'm... So I guess the answer is get someone to pay you and force you to review a game because then you have to finish it.
I feel like I have the inverse problem though. Like I finish every game that I play.
Here it is.
Almost when I hate them.
First with the turkeys, and now so cool.
But the problem is I don't play as many games throughout the year. Right. So like I do have like a more extensive backlog of games I've just never touched.
Oh, sure. You don't start things out with the intention of finishing.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean the answer is shedding your completionism and like kind of kicking yourself in the ass and saying, okay, like I gotta push through and really focus on the main story in order to get through.
And I need to be okay feeling behind the curve, because even like focusing on Outer Worlds, like I feel like I've missed out on so many new releases now because of that, right? It's like Outer Worlds, that came out years ago. We got to keep moving on, but there's so much pressure to stay current, especially launching min-max and everything. It'll really stress you out.
And also, don't put that pressure on you if you don't need to. Like,
it's not your job to play.
We're
everything.
kind of in that position, but play games when you get to them. But I do get to that point. It's important to me because there are times when I stagnate on a game and then I just don't continue playing it and I bounce off of it and I'm like, oh, this is, it's impossible. I'm never going to get through this game.
I also think, to some degree, you shouldn't feel obligated to finish everything. Like, if it's not, like, the only game that I didn't finish this year was, like, Judgment, and that's just because I completely bounced off of it. And I don't feel guilty for like having not finished it just because like if when I'm not playing the game I have no desire to play it unless I'm being paid to do it. I don't feel guilty about like just ignoring it because it's like I'm not having fun with it. Why would I put myself through like that to continue to play that game if I don't like it?
Christopher Reardon, do you think a game streaming service in the future will ever include movies? I could see Sony Pictures including some films with PlayStation Now, or Microsoft partnering with a studio to add some video to Game Pass. I could see it.
I mean, I feel like they could be a package deal, but I think those services would always be separate. Like if Nintendo, like I could see Sony having a PlayStation View / PlayStation Now package deal. But I think
View's dead, right?
Well, like something like it. Let's say.
Okay, gotcha.
But I think the idea of here's a client that would run both games and movies seems. I don't know. I feel like we're still kind of far away from that.
Steam does it, right?
Yeah, but even Steam's been backing off films, right? I think they might have even stopped doing that overall.
I don't think it'll happen. I think Sony and Microsoft have both tried it and recognized that it didn't work and moved away. Because Powers was kind of a flop. Yeah. And they made a film, which was a good documentary about like the ET, but that just never even like came out. They just sort of abandoned it. I just don't. I think people like have a video service that they're happy with, whether that's Netflix or whatever, and then they have a video game service that they're happy with.
Yeah. I think the hard part is it's a different thing to be making your own content versus giving you other people's content in order to stream it. But I do think from the streaming angle, like you have to be making your own content to entice people to sign up, because otherwise, we all have Netflix or Hulu or whatever.
Yeah. So turns out that Sony did release that Gran Turismo documentary. The creator of Gran Turismo.
It's an hour and a half.
They just put it up on YouTube, which I completely missed this. How many views does that have?
91,000.
How much?
91,000.
Great guess. 300,000 actually. Not too shabby. Looks well done. Let's see. Nejin says, hey, Minmaxinistos, what game, movie, or show do you feel so about despite people having intensely strong feelings about it?
We've talked about this before. I feel a little bit that way about from games. Like, I just like them okay.
But you can't say that because like Sekiro is like one of your favorite games this year.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's but it is like with that.
We're not accepting that answer.
Yeah,
come up with a different.
Come up with a better one.
Sorry, Breaking Bad.
Thank you. Oh, really?
Not really. I just never finished it.
Okay. So what's the name? Just answer the question.
I like Breaking Bad a lot. I just never finished it. That's all.
Wow.
I never got
take.
I never got it.
For me.
An answer.
Well, I mean, like you can feel like my example is The Good Place. Like I've watched all of it, but I consistently find that I'm not like a huge fan of its tone. But I'm like this is kind of the environment that we're in. Is that
too good.
I don't hate The Good Place. I wouldn't say it's like when someone says, oh, this is one of the greatest shows ever. Like, this is the best show on TV. I'm just like,
they're right.
It just feels like a completely dissociative statement of like, I cannot believe you would think that.
Right.
Because to me, there happen to be so many issues that I have with The Good Place that I just find it like, I don't understand what mindset you'd have to be.
You don't
to
believe
think
in the
that
afterlife?
Yeah.
No truth in this story.
Exactly. What kind of fantasy have you concocted where people continue being conscious after they die?
What?
Yeah.
My answer is Futurama.
Ooh, so. I think I'm with you.
Yeah. Futurama, to me, let's see. Futurama is to The Simpsons as Disenchanted is to Futurama for other fans.
Okay.
Of Matt Groening, right?
Got it.
Wait, so you like Disenchanted more?
No.
I think I'm apathetic about it in the way that Futurama fans are.
I got it. It took me a second. I understand now.
Edward Bailey says, this is going to sound really random.
Perfect.
But I promise no one can predict where this email is going.
As opposed to researching golems on...
It's more random than that.
That wasn't an email.
Kyle's using his hand to block
I just don't want to see the screen.
Are we supposed to be guessing what it's going to be? Or...
Well, it sounds like it's going to be random.
Well, no, but Kyle, you're capable of not looking at this.
He's about to karate chop his
I think
mic.
you told me once, Hanson, which I think is really interesting.
Oh, thank you. Please, my favorite fact.
Do you know what I'm going to say?
I know exactly what you're going to say.
That it's like the only learned human behavior. I don't know. Can you know what I'm going to say?
No, you said it perfectly.
Okay.
Moving on.
Reading.
Reading
is the only involuntary behavior, right?
It's the only involuntary skill
that you learn. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you see something, you can't help but read it once you know how to read. Yes. That's interesting.
I don't know if that
Kyle,
can't be true, right?
This is just.
Would you read the thing he's about to say, please?
He's acting like it's showing the ending of Death Stranding here.
Just say the thing, please.
Edward Bailey says, I desperately need another perspective on this. In the song Wild World by Cat Stevens, there is a random fart-like noise in the middle of the chorus. The song has over 200 million listeners on Spotify. Listens on Spotify, and I can't find a single mention of the noise online. Over 2 farts. The internet is clearly obsessed with fart noises. In the last few months, 3 different people have found themselves in the online headlines because of a vague fart sound while broadcasting on TV. So I just think this is insanity that not one person has mentioned this.
Play it.
So it's Cat Stevens' Wild World. Could you please just listen to it and tell me I'm not crazy? So it's at 152.
Okay. So how's this going to work? Do we have to keep the audio? Do we have to remove the audio from the podcast or something?
It'll be fine. I don't think YouTube's algorithm can detect just pure flatulence.
Okay,
which is
all right.
Clearly what this is.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
I think I missed it.
I was so ready to be like, oh no, that's just like a drum or something like
There's 10.5 million views.
Do it again.
All right, wait. Yeah, listen closely, man. It's there. Oh my god.
It's like the drop between the instrument and
it's him being like,
Yeah.
Oh my god. Wow.
That is very good.
Who wrote that email?
Cat Stevens.
Oh, Kat, thank you. That email of the week. I know we don't do that anymore.
Edward Bailey.
That's incredible.
I love him searching and just he's acting like he's lost his mind that no one has talked about
this. Is this a Twilight Zone episode?
Yeah. Well, I just watched that Beatles film yesterday.
Yeah.
Where someone wakes up from a coma and no one in the world remembers the Beatles. I feel like that's what Edward's life is like about just Cat Stevens farting into a microphone while singing.
Should I watch that, by the way, as a fan of the director and a fan of the Beatles?
By the way, yes.
Okay.
It's interesting. And like any movie like that where it's like that high premise, right, of like,
I love that stuff. Yeah.
It's very fun. I always just wish it was more subtle. And like the way it starts, I think is beautifully subtle, right? Where he just makes some reference to when I'm 64. And like this friend of his is like, why 64? And he goes, what do you mean? And she goes, never mind. And then just like move on, right? And it's like, I love like those little details, but then it just becomes a little bit over the top where there's a fun scene where a lot of the movie where he's trying to remember Beatles songs. So he has like pin-up notes about like, okay, this song, I remember these words, Eleanor Rigby, something, sewing socks, what is it? And so he's trying to remember all these lyrics and all these different songs. And then like he goes to the dentist and the dentist is like, well, I always get by with a little help from my friends. And he's like, oh, of course. And he goes back home and writes that. But it's like, when's the last time anybody has said that sentence, especially in a world where Beatles don't exist? But I have a lot of thoughts on yesterday.
I'd love to hear them.
It sets things up in a more interesting way because it's not just the Beatles. There are other things that are missing randomly in the world, which I didn't know as part of the plot.
That's interesting.
But are those things missing because the Beatles don't exist?
That's
are they,
debatable.
Like, all connected?
Some, like, spoiler for the beginning of yesterday, the band Oasis doesn't exist. It's like, okay, that makes sense, right?
Okay.
But then there's weird stuff like Coca-Cola doesn't exist. Or it's like, wait, is that connected? And there's, I'm going to spoil one other detail that's missing. So it's like, towards the end of the movie, and he's been living in this world for like a month and a half or so, and then he just makes some reference to cigarettes, and people are like, what? He's like, it took him a month and a half to realize there were no more cigarettes in the world, which I love that weird detail just on a sci-fi level. I'm just like, yeah, how long would it take you? Cigarettes just did not exist as a concept before you noticed they were gone if you're not a smoker, right?
I want to watch that.
Interesting.
Yeah, it, you know.
At some point, it feels like you're burying the lead by saying the Beatles is the most important thing that's missing from that world.
Right.
Because if I mean, I'm not a smoker, but it seems like cigarettes would have a larger impact than the Beatles.
Well,
unless I don't know. Unless I'm a weirdo. But
yeah, there's a couple really. There's one thing I really love towards the end, and then there's one thing that I think is like, what are you doing? And I even listened to like a spoiler special from Empire Podcast, which I really liked about that movie, and they had Danny Boyle and the writer on, and did not ask him like the number one question, which I guess I won't spoil.
I did read one article about it. I haven't seen the movie, and I wish I could remember the outlet, but they got together a bunch of philosophers and interviewed them and asked them, like, what is the moral choice that you would make in a world where this doesn't happen?
Oh, interesting.
Because he kind of plays the music, you know? And so they're like,
yeah.
So, like, is depriving the world of Beatles music, morally gray or whatever? And
for sure.
It was an interesting conversation.
The Morally Gray album. Yes. Justin Swart says, while browsing through the Disney Plus library, it brought back many memories of classic Disney video games. What's your favorite Disney video game and why? Well, it's not the best of the bunch. I can vividly recall playing The Rocketeer, a tough 2D NES game.
Huh.
Yeah, I went back in Disney Plus and watched the first episode of Gargoyles. Which is a show I just used to absolutely love. And it's so weird watching something that I have not seen in 22 years at least. And it's like, oh, that's right. Keith David was the main voice. And like just seeing all these things. And, like, I forgot that like the entire first and maybe second episode is like takes place in Scotland in like the 900s or something. It's like, it tells the origin story of the gargoyles. It's all very important.
Does it hold up?
You know, the animation is better than I expected. I think that happens a lot looking at like that certain era of animation, not like some 70s garbage like Spider-Man or something, right? But just like 90s animations. Like, man, they're really good. They're going through the motions here.
I remember one episode of that when I was a kid where one of the main characters gets his hand frozen into stone. You know, he's like a human. He reaches through a portal or something and it freezes it into stone. And that was just mind-blowing as a kid because from that point on, it's like this guy has a stone hand now. And it's like consequences that carry over from in a cartoon, you know, at that age. It was like, oh my God.
Man, I'm totally with you. I was just thinking about this the other day too. Like, I was so just hangry, as the kids say, right, Surreal? For like progression or a sense of consistency in TV growing up.
Yeah.
And one of the most satisfying shows that had this was completely unexpected, but it
MASH.
Yeah, people just kept dying. No, it was Home Improvement and him building the hot rod in the garage. Like the fact that carried forward in that show of him building that blue hot rod that eventually got to the point where they drove it, like that was so satisfying. Just it's, eventually probably led to me appreciating RPGs and progression overall, right? But it's just so weird.
When we've had those sort of discussions about Dragon Ball, like
I mentioned it on the Dragon Ball podcast. Yeah, like seeing Vegeta get his like shoulder pad torn off, and then him having it for the rest of the episode, and then in the episodes after that, I was like, whoa!
All I wanted when I was young was just continuous stories. I was so bummed by resets every episode. So like that kind of stuff was so great when they
just think about it though. If Home Improvement didn't exist, we wouldn't be here right now.
That's true. Because I wouldn't have learned all those handy lessons to then create the MinMax Studio. And you wouldn't know how to drill...
I was going to say the RPG progression led you into gaming.
Right, I was thinking that too.
Yeah.
Did they have that element of the Home Improvement TV show, but with like fun animated characters in a post-apocalypse?
Yeah.
Maybe they fight God at the end? I don't know.
Oh, anyways, Justin Swart, the answer to your question is I love the Darkwing Duck game on NES and Game Boy.
That's right, we were supposed to answer.
Because it's made by Capcom, and like the composer's the Mega Man 3 composer. Like the soundtrack to the Darkwing Duck game is awesome. The city song in particular is just like this cool, swinging, jazzy song.
I remember liking the Aladdin game, but I don't know if it was good or not.
Well, which one?
The Super Nintendo one.
That's because that was mine. Like that's the one I played a lot. And I was bummed that the recent re-release didn't have both the Genesis and the Super Nintendo, because it has the Genesis and Super Nintendo versions of Lion King, but not the Genesis and Super Nintendo versions of Aladdin. I also liked Mickey Mania. It's not like a great game, but just conceptually, like going through all the different eras of Mickey, really cool.
Is that the one that had him climbing up like a spiral staircase or some sort of tower? Because I have somewhat vivid memories of that.
That might be Castle
Epic
Illusion,
Mickey, the
maybe.
Power of Two.
No, this was a little bit earlier than that. Yeah,
and I think Mickey Mania was a David Jaffe joint. I think.
Is that right?
I think that was like one of his first games.
Jaffe Joint.
Jaffe Joint.
Which was a failed Disney character.
Jaffe Joint.
Jaffe Joint.
Justin Swart wrote in again. You little SOB. Man, I guess he supports us, so you got to do. He's our boss. He says, hey, the original Xbox came out 18 years ago. Did you hear about this? November 15th, 2001. Let's take a trip down nostalgia lane for once on this podcast.
Finally.
What are your favorite gaming memories from the OG Xbox? Hands down, mine are all things Halo. After school, split-screen action on Hang 'em High and Blood Gulch and LAN parties in college are still some of my favorite gaming memories. A few buddies and I even won small Halo tournaments on campus that made us feel like kings. Nay, gods, I inserted into Justin's comment. Yeah, I mean, Halo is just, it has to be it. Because I remember, like, right when the system launched, a friend of mine went over to another friend's house and then was regaling me with stories of Halo. And it's like, oh, it's kind of like Time Splitters. There's a level where you're, like, in the snow outside and we just, like, drove the cars around. I was like, okay, this does sound pretty good. But he's describing, like, Side 1 was
I had
peak
a
Xbox game.
Permanent, like, 2 TVs, 2 Xboxes set up in my house,
I have a really weird one because I never owned an original Xbox, but I have a friend who did, so he'd bring it over all the time, and his was modded. So he had like a bunch of games on it, and at one point he did lend me like Ninja Gaiden, and that's like the Xbox game for me. But one time he brought over his Xbox, which had a bunch of games. He had like a bunch of the Dead or Alive, but he also had a bunch of David Lynch movies on it. And so we watched Eraserhead and Rabbids on the same night at like 2 a.m.
Oh my god, that sounds
and
horrifying.
It was like the weirdest rabbit because I'd never even heard of David Lynch at this point. So it was like watching those 2 films back to back. Like I woke up the next morning like, what? Did that even actually happen? Was that a dream that I had? And it was like the weirdest night that I think I had when I was a kid. It was just like, and you know, he left the Xbox there overnight, and I was like, I need to make sure that those movies are still on that thing because I feel like it was like
it just freaked you out that much.
Yeah, well, like I'd never seen anything like it. I was just like, this doesn't make any sense. And like, I mean, like in retrospect now, like Rabbids is maybe my favorite Lynch thing, but like. It's so weird to like for that to randomly like we're gonna play some Dead or Alive, we play some Halo, we play some Ninja Gaiden. Let's watch a David Lynch movie. That's cool.
Yeah. They come pre-installed in these things. I don't know.
It's like 100 games. One of them's Eraserhead, I guess.
It's weird to maybe now associate Eraserhead with like
the original Xbox.
That logo, like that like weird logo that comes up where it's all like industrial with the goo in there. Like that could be black and white and inserted into Eraserhead. I feel like, and it wouldn't feel out of place.
Beep. I think it was I mean, it was always weird talking about modded stuff and ROMs, I guess, at Game Informer, but I guess we can talk about it now, right? Like, I take it back. Like, I think beyond even Halo 1, which I played the hell out of on the original Xbox, like, the original Xbox is just defined as, like, the king of piracy in my life. Like, so many of my friends had modded Xboxes, and, like, going through, that's where I played so many old games, like, everything from the SNES, NES, you know, Genesis library, stuff like that. It was just, that's where I fell in love with Kuru Karin. That Game Boy Advance spinning stick was just having this save states, load states on that original modded Xbox. I probably still have, I think that Xbox down there is an old modded Xbox, you know? It's just like, that is just, that was my gateway.
On it?
Yeah. What's that?
Does it have that Xbox exclusive game?
Yeah, I don't know how to delete it.
I'm not a terrible person who is also a criminal.
Right.
But I
associated with criminals. I wasn't a criminal.
It was mostly Halo, but then the Ninja Gaiden I played a ton of. And specifically, I played the original NES trilogy of the Ninja Gaiden games more than I played the actual...
Because they were in that package?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I forgot
You could get them, and I played through them just an absurd number of times because I also had like a normal TV in my room, so I would have something on in the background and just play through those, and that's where the Ninja Gaiden Super Replay came from.
Is that right? From the Xbox?
Yes.
How weird.
Also, I was lying earlier because I also modded my Xbox. So, everyone did it.
Soft mod or hard mod guy?
It was soft,
Okay.
Which is why everyone did it, right? Because you didn't have to open up the system or anything. It was like a save file thing.
Nicholas Westcott says, "Hey, MinMax crew, for decades, it felt like brand was perceived as the primary indicator of a game's quality, i.e., that's a Bioware game. However, as teams and talent splintered and proliferated across the industry, those old reputations have become less accurate. In a wonderful change, we're seeing more and more individual artists recognized for their contributions to successful projects. Industry superstars have emerged like Hideo Kojima, Amy Hennig, Ken Levine. Rest in peace, Ken. Remember when that guy was in the game industry? Looking forward to the new game, though. Whose careers we can watch and... whose careers we can watch and track between games. Sorry.
Right there, buddy.
It's just reading's hard. Whose careers we can watch and track between games as a premonition of quality. Sure, there have always been industry legends like Miyamoto and John Carmack, but recognition of individuals over brands seems like a more universal thing these days. When did the general gaming public truly start recognizing the talents of individual game creators over brands? Kyle?
Yeah, since you...
For me, I really started recognizing specific creators when God of War came out because David Jaffe was so in your face and had a blog and was all over the special features for that game.
What, did it start with the special features on that first game, though?
I think because he is a charismatic person who even in magazine interviews like stood out as someone who had big ideas. Like he was like very much like, I don't know why this game hadn't I mean honestly, but like he's like, I don't know why this game doesn't exist already, and he was really like adamant about it. So that was the first time that I noticed a name specifically.
You loved his Valentine's Day advice? Is that
Oh yeah, Hanson's pulling up some fun stuff here.
No, go on.
But that was all I'm saying is like that's when I started saying like, oh, there's specific people behind these games. I'm going to start paying attention to the names more, and that's when I like learned Cory Barlog's name for God of War 2 and Tim Schafer for Double Fine stuff.
For sure.
And
I think a lot of it comes from like video interviews, right? Just like the rise of online coverage.
Yeah.
And like it's like, okay, seeing Tim Schafer's name, obviously when his name's on the box, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
David Cage was also one of those ones where it was an early person's name coming out.
Well, yeah, because he literally kicks off Heavy Rain. Not Heavy Rain, Indigo Prophecy. Like when you hit start on Indigo Prophecy, he's like, hello, I'm David Cage. I really love The Matrix.
Yeah.
So I think the first, besides Miyamoto, because like Miyamoto never felt like, oh, he's the guy who made all your favorite games. He just felt like he's the Walt Disney of video games. He's Nintendo. He is like somehow the spawn of all the games, right? Like, so I never was like, oh, what's he gonna do next? I think Shinji Mikami was like the first name that I heard when I read about, because like the first piece of game media besides like, oh, my friend just bought this game and I'm gonna play it too, was like reading an issue of Nintendo Power with Resident Evil 4 on the cover. So I was like, they mentioned Shinji Mikami as like, no, he's the guy behind. He's like the guy who's doing the work on this one. And I was like, oh, Shinji Mikami, he knows good game design. And then like I think immediately after that was Suda 51, because like I think this was like several years later, because they were talking about No More Heroes and they reviewed it, and they reviewed it pretty highly and said it was like the first time I'd read a review that wasn't just like, oh, the game is good. It was they had like a part of the review was like, no, we should be supporting games like this because they are so weird. And he said, like, yeah, Suda's like one of these visionary creators that has produced games like Killer 7. And then, like, and so that was like the first time it's like, oh, yeah, I guess this guy must be important, so I should follow his work as well.
Right.
But but Shinji Mikami was like the first guy that it's like, he is a prominent game designer in a sense that I can understand in the same way that, like, George Lucas made Star Wars, Shinji Mikami made Resident Evil.
I'm trying to think. I mean, there's a chance. Like name developers, like there's a chance it's Kojima, even in '98, right, with Metal Gear, where it's like, okay, this is a name I know. I'm trying to think, because like
when fighting Psycho Mantis and it says Hideo,
right?
I thought it said Hido, like I didn't know how to pronounce it. I thought it was the word hide, and I was like, am I supposed to hide? Is this a stuff?
Which, to be fair, could be a name of a character that Hideo.
Yeah.
So when you first heard of Kojima, did you call him Hideo? Because you thought Hideo rhymed with video?
Yeah.
Like I did?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But that prompted me to look him up, is what I'm saying.
Oh,
like, look up that name and figure out what was happening there. And I was like, oh, okay. There's a dude.
Speaking of looking up people, Kyle, I need you to know that David Jaffe's still around and kicking.
Oh, I know. He's saying stuff out there.
Killing it on Twitch and YouTube. I was sent this YouTube video. This is David Jaffe's official YouTube channel, which is rivaling.
I like how you're trying to disown yourself up. I was sent this. This happened to me.
Yeah, it's from some deviant that also mods their Xbox. This is just a YouTube pullout that's on his official channel, just called "Women, Poop, and Sex," and it's about how he doesn't
training, right?
That's right. He just doesn't like poop. He's not into it.
All right. That's why he doesn't like Yoshi's
why you
Island.
love him so much, Kyle.
I didn't say I love him. I said that he's the first name that stood out to me
as being super cool, and I want to be just like him when I grow up. God,
Calling All Cars was just a masterpiece. It's really what ultimately I'm getting at.
Chris Bartlett has a oldie but a goodie that several people wrote in with, saying, in honor of last week's biggest releases, what is your favorite Pokemon? I have kind of a weird one in Shuckle. So I was pleasantly surprised that the first clothing store I found in Pokemon Shield sold a shirt with Shuckle.
I like how you stop. Like, okay, everybody get ready to this. Shuckle.
Shuckle.
Everyone, shut up.
It's a good name.
Shuckle.
The password is Shuckle.
Just it cuts to a contestant, just a horrified look on their face.
What is Shuckle?
Do I see Shuckle? Yeah, for me it's Tangela, because that was the first Pokemon card I got.
Tangela?
Tangela, as wise
Tangela
say.
I have a lot of affection for Klefki, because I played through X and Y, and I was reviewing it, and I had the benefit of seeing Klefki before he was revealed like publicly.
Yeah,
and I was
he
just
was based on your keys, right? You
That's
dropped
right.
them like Game Freaks. And let us write that down.
But I just parties you always go to?
Yeah, of course. They hold at Game Freak in the different rooms that they have, the different meeting rooms. But
you gave them their name.
Yeah, Klefki. Just because he's so freaking weird.
Yeah.
Mine, well, great. Mine was Squirtle, which you can all make fun of me for that now.
No, seems like a good noble choice.
Party
Squirtle.
jokes.
Yeah.
Kyle, remember that time you lost your keys?
Yeah, it
A
still
long time
haunts
ago?
me.
Do you think those keys are still in the office?
No, I
You
don't.
lost your keys in the
Yeah,
office?
no, I don't know.
He lost his car key,
I lost my car
which
keys.
is like $800 or something.
It was very expensive
What?
for me to replace the fob. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're the new fobs. All of them cost like that.
Yeah.
That's why I won't get a new car.
Yeah, you
I'm
still
just
drive that
never
truck
gonna-
from 1978. Yeah.
But Surreal, I still think about that every few months because I'm not, I haven't lost a lot of keys in my life, and I don't know where those keys could possibly.
If you know, please write in
Yeah.
to podcast@gamerformer.com.
Klefki.
Or simply just get in Kyle's car and take
transformed
it.
into a
We'll
turn
Pokemon
into
game.
a Pokemon, yeah.
I like Arcanine.
Thank you. Moving forward, Nanook writes in and says, of the North, let's find out. He says, hey, I just watched the most recent Jeopardy! Tournament of Champions, and as usual, was so impressed by the effortless way in which Alex Trebek hosts the show, especially as he battles pancreatic cancer. Is he the greatest game show host of all time? Did you guys see that clip, by the way, where somebody wrote, like, thank you, Alex Trebek, or something?
Like basically intentionally lost the game to say a nice thing to Alex Trebek, right?
I thought they just wrote that as their name. They, thanked Alex Trebek.
No, it was like the final Jeopardy. They, bet their answer for the final answer was thank you, Alex Trebek.
Oh, really? And Alex got choked up?
Yeah, and I got
That's so
choked
sweet.
up because it was super sweet.
Yeah. He's good. There's no doubt he's good.
He doesn't talk about it a lot, but every now and then you'll see an interview where he talks about how he focuses specifically on the game, like how important it is to play the game properly to him, and keep the emphasis on the questions and the players, and separate himself from the process, which I think is really interesting, and I like how thoughtful he is about how he approaches what is you'd think maybe is an easy job, but I'm sure it's incredibly difficult to manage all that information and read all those questions. And stuff.
He should have double checked his facts with that Tetris question a while ago. He said that they're all named pieces, but hey, that's fine. Everything's things got to slip through.
Yeah, you posed that question to us. Just who do you think is the best gaming host without the lead-in? And I was thinking about it for a long time because most hosts are kind of skeezy and weird, I thought Bob Barker did it. Well, no, I'm not gonna call out Bob Barker.
By the way, how long's he got? A week? On this
still
great
alive?
earth? Yes, he is.
Really?
It's got to be within 2
He's
months.
still alive. You're telling
Yes,
me.
absolutely.
Oh boy, it's going to be tomorrow in this podcast.
Absolutely.
We're not gonna kill Bob Barker, are we?
Well, I mean, the YouTube video can just end in memory of Bob Barker, right?
He's 95 years old.
Wow.
Years young.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, well, good for him. But finally, I was like, oh, right, of course. It's Alex Trebek. Yes, it's got to be Alex.
Just like...
That's not who I thought you were going to say.
Well, I'm going to go Jeff Probst.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Jeff Probst
Survivor.
does such... Sorry, just pulling. This is the downside of having a laptop. It's just a bunch of old, scary Bob Barker pictures. But Jeff Probst on Survivor. Survivor is still, I sincerely argue, one of the greatest TV shows of all time, and certainly one of the greatest TV shows that's still on today. Now that Game of Thrones is done,
and certainly ruined our, television landscape and put Trump in the presidency.
I do think that's true. I sincerely do think that's true.
Yeah.
But. As far as Trump goes, not ruined television landscape in general. Because I still think, Survivor still there's a lot of qualms. There's a million qualifiers in this. But it's amazing how much dignity that show has for being so important in the year 2000. It should have gone off the rails and jumped the shark so long ago. But the fact that, they're sticking to Fiji, but, overall sticking to the same game because it is just, social politics, the game, and it's endlessly fascinating. And Probst does such a good job, and especially during some, intense moments or controversial moments, like this last week's episode was a whole insane can of worms, and he navigates those prickly moments really well. So, hats off to Jeff Probst.
We'll all take your word for it.
Long may
In
he
memory
reign.
of Jeff Probst.
Corey says, your conversation regarding Serial's weight loss. Congrats on that accomplishment.
I did it. Thank you.
Do you keep that weight around? Or you just don't have it anymore?
Yeah, I have it in a closet.
It cost them
somewhere,
$800.
It's my weight, and I'm going to keep it. The government can't take it from me.
That made me think about the food, drink habits of video gamers. Is the gamer culture diet as bad as it sometimes sounds? I spend a lot of time in a variety of artistic circles and feel, at least with some stereotypes, can often be spot on. Almost all fine art tends to love its wine and aged cheese. Club music loves burger and beers. Movie culture is similar with popcorn, candy, and soda. Yeah, absolutely. If you love movies, you consist mainly on popcorn. But sometimes it sounds like gamers live on an exclusive diet of energy drinks and junk food aimed at children. What do you think? Is that a bad rap? Is it pretty accurate? Is it a health problem the broader community rarely talks about?
It is interesting because I think a lot of that stereotype just comes from the fact that those are the companies that sponsor stuff.
Yeah,
so we do have that idea of everybody eats Doritos, and it's well, they're the ones who paid to have their stuff hawked originally, and then you have stuff like what's her name from Overwatch eating chips, because that has become a meme of itself, and so. Yeah, but
so it just propagates.
I would assume that people aren't actually like that. We have the good eats section where it's they're all gamers and they like actual human food.
Yeah, I do wonder though, and it could be a little bit of the chicken and the egg thing, right? But if you look at average amount of Mountain Dew consumed in the United States, and then you look at people who play games more than 5 hours a week, and you see what that average amount do. I mean, I think it'd probably be higher. Maybe it's just overall demographics, though. Younger, male-skewed demographics will have more.
Younger thing as well.
But yeah, I think there's something to it, but it's largely, I think, the marketing, right?
I think the perception of that diet is maybe larger than the evidence behind it, but I can see some correlation there.
Yeah. Kieran Robinson, this one's for Kyle. Don't let him look at this because it's a spoiler.
Close my eyes.
How old were your daughters when they started taking an interest in gaming? My daughter is 1 year old, and all I can think about is when she'll be old enough for the two of us to play games together. Whenever my nephew comes around, we play Untitled Goose Game and Snipper Clips. How old? I guess it was Pokemon this week?
Yeah, honestly. She was not really into games until recently. It's funny because this is funny to me. My wife and my daughter are playing Pokemon together, and they're having a lot of fun, and I'm just kind of watching. That's great. And they played Luigi's Mansion together, and they're having a lot of fun. That's great. But the game that weirdly my kid got into with me was Hello Neighbor.
Right.
And that game's not good. But she loved it.
And also creepy.
Yeah, it's creepy, and it wasn't fun to play. It was just it controlled poorly. I had to watch a full walkthrough of the game to even understand how to do it. And it's I had to play this garbage game with my kid because she was having a great time, and I was and spending time with her.
Because was it a jump scare thing or what?
It's jump scares and really obtuse puzzles that barely make sense that controls poorly. And then it's I was well, we played it together and that was fun. It was a bad game, but we had a good time. And then I look over and my wife's getting to play like Luigi's Mansion 3 co-op and Pokemon, and it's like, but like 5 is the answer.
5's the answer.
Yeah,
there it is.
What is I mean, part of me feels like the Hello Neighbor thing came from watching YouTube, but I don't know if your daughter is like at it.
There is she doesn't watch YouTube, but there's a Disney Channel guy named Parker Plays who is like a video game YouTuber, but on the Disney Channel.
Oh, okay.
And he played it, and that's why she wanted to play it. So yeah, it is a YouTuber game. Like it is a game with jump scares.
So after that, you turned that channel off and said you are not allowed to watch this guy because he will recommend you bad games.
That's right.
Interesting.
You said watch the Game Informer show.
Wait, actually, don't watch that
for the rest of your life, where I will be working.
Nora, friend of the show, writes in and says, as one of the 7.4% of MinMax listeners you mentioned last episode. By the way, this is just for YouTube analytics.
It's 7.4.
7.4.
That's higher. That's higher than I thought it'd be. But okay.
Nope. Wait, what are you talking about?
I thought you mentioned it was 1% at one point.
Certain videos probably were.
Okay.
Anyway, just get to the point. As one of the 7.4% of MinMax listeners you mentioned last episode, I wanted to write in to agree with Kyle's wife. She's totally on point in saying the best thing for diversifying your audience is to diversify your lineup. This is about women on the show. One of the main reasons that got me. One of the main things that got me to the Giant Beast cast was when Abby Russell joined the team. It's not to say I didn't enjoy Giant Bomb stuff before that, but by bringing a woman into the room, it showed a commitment on their part to getting diverse perspectives on the show. It also made me feel like there was someone for me to identify with as a new listener getting started with their huge backlog of content. Yeah, it's a good entryway. I actually get that. While it was awesome to have a female friend of the show on the stream last week, it would be especially awesome to see women in the MinMax mix, who are in the games industry, not to mention others who aren't as well represented. Very true. Huge fan of the show and stream so far. It's great to see you guys off on this independent venture and support a resoundingly Midwestern voice in the games media landscape. Yeah, Nora has a great point. It is absolutely something we're thinking a lot about, and I know a lot of people have opinions on it in the Discord, some one way, some the other. Like some people naturally just don't like shoehorn in some new voice if it's just like for the sake of diversity. And I hear that, but at the same time, we're going to have people on the show that we like hanging out with and that are smart and can add to the MinMax community overall. And it would be absolutely nice to diversify the lineup a little bit. And like, it was just amazing reading so many emails for the Game Informer show that were sent in, because so many emails were sent in that were like, oh, thank God for like Elise and Kim on the show. Like, I love hearing from their perspective. And it was a lot of women that were just like, oh, it's just this life raft. Like, thank God I can connect to this person on the show. Because, yeah, I'd imagine it's very annoying to listen to more guys talk about video games again and again and again.
And there's that idea, that shoehorn idea betrays the fact that there are, like, these people are out there. There are plenty of people who have lots of opinions, and it's very diverse. It's just they're not getting the opportunity to talk about it. And we certainly want to facilitate that.
Unfortunately, our corporate overlords will not let us have any diversity on the show. No. Yes, absolutely in the near future, for sure. Nora, you're welcome to come home and start that Age of Mythology show as well, if you're interested. Ben Pilakzinski says, what's up, Min-Maxers?
Yo.
Hey. Look at this theme.
Hi.
Last week, Dan Reichert, MinMax superfan. I don't think that's true, but his wife is very sweet.
Hey, he's a Patreon supporter. He's a superfan as much as anyone else.
There we go. There we go. He's our boss, too. Showed off his vast knowledge of wrestling, which brought me to my question. What's something that you guys have a crazy amount of knowledge about beyond video games that people may not know about? For example, my roommate can tell you everything about Star Wars, from all the previous Legends stuff to the new canon stuff. Or for myself, I know quite a bit about the current continuity of the DC Comics universe, The Flash being one of my favorite superheroes.
Hey.
Not familiar. Not familiar.
No.
Okay, something you guys know a lot about outside of video games.
Board games.
Oh, okay, all right.
Just
That's
an
your
absurd
answer?
Amount, yes.
Yeah. Absurd amount?
Yeah. I spent more time, spoiler, I guess, or I don't know what it is. But the past couple of years, I spent more time probably on Board Game Geek than I did Game Informer.
Really?
Yeah. And I can tell you that because, like Google, when you pull up a blank screen on Chrome, it lists in the order of popularity of like how many times you frequently go to places.
So it's like Game Informer, Google search for Ugly Toes, and then Board Game Geek?
No, Board Game Geek was
number
first,
one.
then
number
Ugly Toes, then
I
Game
see.
Informer.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, got it backwards. Got it. All right, does anybody else have an answer? Is anybody else smart in anything?
It's Dragon Ball for both of you guys, right?
Well, yeah. I don't know.
It counts.
Yeah,
How's that not
we're
count?
just fans. We're not experts, though. But one thing I really obsess about is like film directors. Like I'm always tracking them and watching them. I watch credits and like internalize names.
Hello, neighbor.
I like to know directors. I like to know what they're working on. I like to I like directors.
There it is. Grizzled Gaming. And now that you guys aren't beholden to a 9-to-5, to a corporate 9-to-5 god, I'm curious what a typical day looks like for each of you. Well, I start up, I take the morning train. I guess it's a 9-to-5 joke. So, for me, yeah, it's different. Like, I still like to wake up early-ish. I've actually been waking up earlier than I would for Game Informer. Game Informer would always set my alarm for 8:47 a.m. And now it's like
8:47 a.m.?
I don't know, because I like doing odd numbers for things, and then usually stroll into the Game Informer office around 10. Whereas here, like, you know, I'll be cruising by 9 or 8:30, and then it's probably checking Patreon, checking emails, seeing if there's any fires to put out. There rarely are any fires to put out, and then it's a matter of looking at my phone and seeing, oh, my min-max to-do note on my phone. What things can I check off today? Plan the content that we're working on that day. You know, it varies quite a bit now, right? But what about for you guys? Jeff, when we know that you just sit around with your
play
hand
Star
in your
Wars
waistband.
in one sitting.
With my what?
Hand in your waistband, like Al Bundy?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I didn't hear where my hand was going, but waistband is a fine answer.
Kyle.
Me. So I wake up early to get the kid to school. So it's like I'm usually like 8:30 is kind of like when my day starts because she's at school, and then usually for the first couple hours in the morning I'm applying to jobs and looking for jobs.
How's that going? What's that like?
I don't know. I haven't gotten a lot of feedback lately, honestly. It gives me a lot of really awful anxiety that wakes me up early in the morning to not have consistent employment.
What's the proper timeline for bothering a person again about a thing that you sent them earlier this week?
Yeah. Do I want to wait in the afternoon where they might be looking at their email?
What's your percentage of Minnesota-based stuff versus stuff in Abu Dhabi?
Oh, I mean, it's a hugely leaning Minnesota, because I want to stay in Minnesota. But then I clean up a little bit and do things around the house along with that, and then at 11 I stream for an hour, which is like I've talked to Serial about this too because you stream as well. But like when I became suddenly unemployed, it was less about like trying to stream to like become an influencer and make money. It was more like I just want a scheduled video game thing that's public facing that I can do almost every day.
And you just became rich and an influencer along the way.
Yeah. Right, that's why I'm still so anxious about not having consistent income.
And what's that Twitch?
Kyle Impersonator, which maybe was a bad name when I picked it. I thought it was very funny a couple years ago. And then after that, it's like working on freelance stuff, more jobby type stuff, and then picking up the kid and hanging out with the family after that. So
yeah. And then playing Hello Neighbor.
That
sounds beautiful.
Honestly, that was like a big part of my day for a while.
Serial, do you want to answer that question?
I mean, I'm doing some part-time work that I don't know if I can talk about. I have no clue. But I actually wake up earlier than I did when I went to Game Informer also. So I'll do that for a while, and then I've just been watching a Dota major this week, so it's a lot of staying up pretty late because they're on China time, and so like the first matches start at like 8 p.m. But a lot of it is like working on some freelance articles and then figuring out things like being in the Min-Max Slack channel, things like that. Just trying to keep up with different Slacks and stuff.
Yeah, people saying let's plan Min Snacks, let's plan Min Snacks. Yeah, which we're doing.
Yeah,
we're having a meeting about it after this.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ooh, speaking of which. Scott Hebert says, "Yo, Min-Max, I was listening to the podcast."
Can we make a tier where, like, if you pay $12 a month, Hanson will make fun of your name? or something
will make fun of it?
Yeah,
or won't. You choose. I was listening to the podcast while making some mac and cheese one day. Rather than use butter, I added a slice of American cheese, a spoon or two of salsa, and a dollop of sriracha. It's pretty damn good nacho mac and cheese. What are some ways you change up typical recipes or unusual ways you order food at a restaurant? On the mac and cheese front, I have the dumbest tongue on planet Earth, and I will argue that to the end of time. But like on the mac and cheese front, I don't make it anymore. But in college, my standard would always be mix some peas in. So peas with those mac and cheese, and then you crumple up saltines on top of that, and that's like a good
like an alien who's posing as you have a human skin suit on, and you're like, this.
In that episode of Friends where she was trying to make a dessert, but the recipe page ripped, so she started adding like meat and peas and stuff to it. Yeah,
that's funny.
Are you okay?
I'm cows. Rachel. Okay. That one where I was a human. Do you guys have any custom recipes?
I really liked that joke.
All right.
That was good. Good friends knowledge we can put in there.
Do you have a recipe?
No, that's why I'm vamping.
Yeah.
Great.
Mine is usually trying to get out fewer carbs out of stuff. I know that's not a fun answer, but
So your meals just look like the
substitute
meal
stuff,
in Hook?
you know, like macaroni and cheese, for instance, which
Yeah.
is all carbs, so it doesn't count. But I use almond milk instead of normal milk.
Yeah.
Totally can't tell the difference. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Go
So-
for it. For sure. I had my mind blown recently. My girlfriend made this delicious dish.
How did you make it?
She went like this. And I'm going to blow it. Spaghetti squash? You familiar with
Yeah.
this? What the hell is going on?
Zoodles, they call it.
What is it?
Zoodles? Well, that's if you use zucchini.
It was
I've done
some
that too.
sort of contraption, vegetable gourd, and then it was just like a bowl of spaghetti with salsa and delicious stuff in there, but it's like, oh no, there aren't spaghettis. It's just you take a fork to the inside of the squash and then it turns into spaghetti. As far as I can figure, it blew my mind.
Well, it like spiralizes it out, right?
And it tastes good. Like, why would you ever eat noodles again?
That's true. I've done that too. That would have been a much better answer, but I didn't think of it at the time.
Did you take a bite and you're like, you know what this needs? Handful of peas and
I
some,
love
and some
peas,
crushed
man.
up saltines.
Absolutely.
Another healthy one?
Yeah.
Instead of doing scrambled eggs, you do scrambled tofu. And you really can't tell the difference.
Shut up.
Well, I mean, you can tell the difference, but it's still very good because, like,
Really?
when I make scrambled eggs, I usually add like tomato and onions and mushrooms and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And so you just add all of those same things, but you use tofu.
But that sounds great, but like, eggs are pretty good for you overall, like unless your cholesterol's off the charts. Like,
Yeah, my
are-
cholesterol is off the charts.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, you had your year
has-
of pizza.
It has always been off the charts, and so that is why
Oh, interesting.
I've
You
tried to
also
lay
a
off the
couple
eggs.
of years ago, I still have yet to try this, which is embarrassing because I was so intrigued by it. But a couple of years ago, you mentioned the sort of tofu idea again, but using taco seasoning and using tofu
Yes.
instead of ground beef.
That is another good answer that I could not
Good
think
answer.
of. on
Good
the,
answer.
You just told me like 4 years ago.
Yeah, and that's an even better one because when you eat a taco, it's all the taco seasoning is what you're tasting mostly.
Right.
You don't think like, this is beef, and that's
So
important.
you just put cardboard in there, realistically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or tofu because tofu as a food just sucks up whatever other flavors that you're putting into it.
Interesting.
And so
What is tofu?
It's soybean.
Is that right?
Yes.
I'll be damned. Hans Kleinenberg. Did everybody know that?
Hans Kleinenberg?
No, did everybody know that tofu is soybeans?
I didn't know. No.
Sorry?
No.
Okay, so I'm not an idiot. Thank you. Hans Kleinenberg says, when looking towards the distant future, 1 or 2 or maybe 5 years down the road, do you see yourself doing more serious content at MinMax like No Clips documentary series? Yes, I would love to do that. I definitely see like a phase 2 on the horizon of incorporating more developers, doing more documentary format style stuff.
What are you doing, Kyle? Where it's like,
I am fidgety.
Are you
so
tired?
I'm like finding all these different positions
He's
to
losing
sit.
it.
My shoulders are hurting.
Yeah.
It's a
lately.
visual podcast, you know.
Yeah,
it's just-
I am sorry if it's distracting, but I do move around a lot,
That's fine.
and I'm uncomfortable lately.
But there is a larger documentary, not to tease things too much, that at some point I want to launch at MinMax that's like 60% done right now that I was working on before Game Informer, which is confusing. And so like I want to launch it, but at the same time, like it's a weird precedent to set unless we're doing more documentaries. Kind of like basically I think it's going to be a bit of a podcast documentary. So that'll be at some point in the near future. But yeah, I definitely would love to do more documentary pieces and fly around a little bit more and visit studios and stuff like that. That'd be really fun. And then he says, would Jeff, Kyle, or Serial maybe like to do more of that content as well in the future?
yeah, for sure.
Specifically serious, more sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be open. I like fun videos. I like being silly. Like that's
easier
that's what
to
I
be,
enjoy.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I always like having serious discussions about games for sure.
Yeah.
Or
can tell.
other stuff other than games too.
Oh, yeah.
Like
very fun.
There's
like
plenty of
Ugly Toes.
other options.
That's right.
Yes, like ugly toes. That's the serious tone we're going for.
Tone. Tom Blackburn says, being located in Minnesota, how do you plan to get guests to come on the show other than Game Informer folks? Oh, crap.
The flaw.
Well, I mean, we have this heater that will
exactly.
ensure
As
that you're not
spiders.
cold.
As of this Friday, I will have all the cables I need to Skype folks in, and hopefully it'll sound
cool.
good.
You could
and
just
stuff,
use
so.
Discord. I feel like that's been easier for me. but-
Yeah, either, right?
Oh, okay.
However we do it, but just to
gotta
have
plug in some
remote guests, so that'll be nice. Let's see. Aaron Waltz says, long time, first time. What are the odds of us getting a weekly show where you guys play older games, kind of replay them, and then maybe sometimes you guys do a long play, kind of like a super replay of them? I know it sounds weird. Here's an idea. Maybe yearly, play a really bad game around the first of the year. Again, that falls in the thing of I don't want to do replay, I don't want to just
the Let's Play format is pretty standard.
Oh, I would love to do Let's Plays at some point, but I don't want to be as direct as here's our replay competitor or anything. But yeah, obviously we're
going to play an old bad game. Yeah, kind of.
That said, I literally just ordered an old bad game off Amazon that I want to play in some way, shape, or form here. So things in that vein, but not as direct as that. Oh, okay, you got it, Stud Muffin. He says, game time. This one is called Meet in the Middle. Kyle, you know this game well. Playing with 4 people is hard mode, so good luck. Everyone thinks of a random word and says it on the count of 3. Then you have to think to yourself, where do these words intersect or meet in the middle? And then that's your next word. Everyone says it on the count of 3.
People. Wait, what do you mean by meet in the middle?
So if, let's see, I say hot, Jeffem says mountain, then we go 1, 2, 3, volcano.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
We got to figure it out with our mind powers.
You sort of do it a little rapid fire, right?
You don't have to.
Okay.
We can really take our sweet time. 4 is going to be hard.
The hardest part of this game is coming up with a random word.
No, it's that. Okay, so everyone starts with a random word.
Okay.
It's a very good game, by the way. I went back and listened when I was stuck in a car for 2.5 hours with Yu Suzuki, by the way, on that Shenmue trip. Ben Reeves and I played this game, so Yu Suzuki had to listen to us be like, Tarantino! Just over and over again.
That's funny.
And how good is his English? Was he just you guys were just...
A little bit. I'm sure he was confused about what was going on.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm struggling.
Ready? Just pick
just a random word.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I have one.
So it's 1, 2, 3 word. Right?
Yes, let's do it that way. Ready, Serial?
1, 2, 3.
Stop sign. Wait, what was your
dog?
Eggs.
Dog, eggs, stop sign, and car.
Dog, eggs.
Not as bad as I thought.
You really screwed us with the eggs.
Car,
okay.
Stop sign.
Dog, eggs, car, stop sign.
Okay.
All
right. 1, 2, 3.
Accident.
Oh, break.
You said break?
Yeah.
Like a break in a car?
It worked both ways.
Leash.
Accident.
House.
Break, leash, accident, house.
Break. Leash.
Oh, no. That's like walking a dog outside
accident,
stop signs.
House. Break, leash.
Break, leash.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Did we win? What is going on now?
We're thinking.
Yeah,
we're thinking of the next word that would type these new words
this is
together.
Hard with 4 people.
A break, leash, accident, house. Okay.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Fire. Okay, so noose, fire.
Stop.
Said noose. I don't know.
You said noose?
I didn't have a good word.
Wait, did you also say noose?
Yeah.
We both said noose.
That's weird.
That's super.
Did we win?
All right, we're out then. It's just you two.
We're not doing better than that. So what did you say?
I said stop.
Stop, and I said fire.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay.
How do you not have it, Kyle?
Okay, I think I got
Stop and fire.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Water.
Did you say Jeff?
Red.
Red. I said water.
Now we're screwed.
Come on, red water. Very
Okay,
clear.
Stop
I got
and
one.
fire are both red.
Yeah,
okay.
some red water
so
earlier.
red and water?
Red and water.
Okay. Yeah.
You
We
got
got it
I
this
don't know.
time.
We'll
Right.
see.
1, 2, 3.
Kool-Aid.
Wine. God. Get some culture in your life, Kyle.
Okay,
Well, we're so
let's
screwed.
do it.
All right.
Okay, wine and Kool-Aid?
Yeah, I think we might.
You guys have the
I feel like
perfect word.
we have one here. Yeah.
Okay.
You ready?
1, 2, 3.
Drink.
Hobo.
Red.
Well, you're not supposed to repeat.
Oh, okay.
Okay, go back.
Okay, so hobo and what?
Drink.
Drink. Kool-Aid and wine.
Hobo and drink.
Drinks.
Okay, hobo and drink.
There's a pretty good word for this
Yeah,
one.
yeah, we got
gosh.
this. 1, 2, 3. Liquor.
Alcoholic.
Now we're screwed. Alcoholic and liquor?
I feel like those are close enough.
No, they are
No,
not.
it has to be the
sir.
same word.
Okay, think of an alcoholic liquor then.
I have a word. I don't know if we're going to be on the same page, but...
1, 2, 3, bottle.
Beer.
Okay.
Beer and bottle.
Okay.
No. We're just going to endlessly orbit each other.
Then we will orbit
You
forever.
guys are like Joker and Batman.
Dibs on Batman. Okay, so beer and bottle?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay.
News boys are getting pretty cozy.
Just the easiest thing we gotta go with.
Yeah, dude. The easiest thing.
You say it too, because you know it.
Yeah.
We all know it.
Don't know it.
1, 2, 3, 99.
What did you say?
99.
99.
Okay.
Bottles of beer on the wall.
Yeah,
You
that's
said,
good.
you said glass.
Glass.
I said Coors because I was like trying to think of the most broad brand of beer.
Wouldn't it be Bud Light?
Yeah, see, I don't know. I was put on the spot.
Stop talking, start thinking.
Glass and Coors?
So screwed. This is never gonna end. And we can't reuse words,
No.
right? Yep. Okay. Sure.
Got it.
3, 2, 1. Liquor
Drink.
store? I've used drink
He
before.
used drink.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well, now what do we do?
Now just do it again. Use come up with 2 different words for that prompt.
For Coors and
Glass.
Glass.
These rules are very clear.
All right. Ready?
No.
We just got to push through it, and we'll have 2 new words to
Yeah,
go
yeah,
off of.
okay,
And
okay, you
hopefully
ready?
it's better.
3,
1, 2,
1,
3,
recycle.
suds.
Even the counting you guys aren't on the same page.
What did you say?
Oh my
I
god.
said suds.
Suds. Okay.
Yeah, like beer.
Okay,
When
I
you
s-
pour it into a glass, it makes
Okay.
suds.
I was thinking like soap suds.
Duh.
Okay. And I said
Suds.
recycle.
I don't know. Recycling suds.
Yeah.
Hang on, suds?
Yeah.
Like head on a beer is called suds?
Yeah. Look it up.
I don't think I've heard that before. Okay, are we doing 1, 2, 3 or 3, 2, 1?
So what are your words? Suds and what else?
Recycle.
You know, I thought recycle earlier for
Yeah?
when we were at some other stupid words.
Okay.
Okay, so suds, which now no one
Yeah, the internet
knows
says
that's
you're
a
wrong.
word.
Yeah, I think
You're looking at.
I think
To be fair, I was looking up ugly toast. You're coming.
I was thinking, like
Why
when you
you're
say
wrong
suds, I
about
think
ugly
soap.
toes.
Suds and recycle.
Okay. You ready? 3,
3, 2, 1,
clean.
on.
Clean is such a better.
Come on.
Okay.
Clean
and clean?
paper. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Ready?
3, 2, 1, paper
towel.
towel.
Sure.
All right,
ladies and gentlemen.
You can't say paper when it's
Well,
already
I
one
don't
of the
know.
words.
Towel.
We got
Towel's
there.
like, yeah, we did it. I feel like Jeff and I won.
You guys really are in sync.
So much.
Oh my
Even
god.
our
When we
high
started-
five, by the way, missed.
It was
Just
off.
so you know,
Yes, it was like a bad
This needs
ricochet.
to be like a min-max group exercise. It'd be really fun
If
to
you
play
donate $15 a month, we will play this game forever in an
Just
exclusive video. Just us playing it. It's at
Forever.
least an hour of content.
Okay, all right, real quick then. Dakota Salmarinian, Mandalorian says, "Hey Min-Max crew, here's a quick game for you guys. I'll list an actor followed by some games. You have to guess what game they were in.
Okay.
Christopher Walken. Ooh. Was he in Mafia: True Crime Streets of L.A.? He was George, apparently.
Oh, that
remember
famous
that.
character, George.
Let's see. A lot of these are a little bit easy. Burt Reynolds.
Vice
Grand
City.
Theft Auto Vice City.
Saints Row
Wow,
3.
way to go, Vice City. Correct. He was Avery Carrington.
Yeah.
Snoop Dogg.
True
Tekken.
Crime Streets in New York.
Streets of L.A.
Oh, L.A.
Apparently, you
dang it.
played Snoop Dogg. Way to go. Again, thank you to everybody that left a comment on the Patreon post. I'm sorry this episode's going long. As always, let's wrap things up with Get a Load of This. All right, Sergio Vasquez, take it away, sir.
Oh, okay. I didn't know I was going to go first. So we were talking about the Game Awards earlier,
I remember.
and you might be aware that one of the categories is that you can nominate. So here's a tweet from Twitter Gaming. Spicy takes, dank memes, amazing clips. It all happens on Twitter. Vote for this year's Gaming Tweet of the Year nominees right here.
Tweet of the year.
Tweet of the year.
I'm gonna vote right
now.
now.
So if you tap on their link, it's a promoted link. You get a video, and then you start a DM conversation with @TheGameAwards. So you can. The message that you get is welcome to the official #TheGameAwards voting. Vote for the gaming tweet of the year and get ready for the live show, whatever. So you can click on
choose your own fire tweet.
You can either say fire gaming tweet of the year, frequently asked questions, or manage my updates. So I just tweeted them. Gaming tweet of the year. What do you think was the most fire gaming tweet of the year on Twitter? And so they just give you like Celsius Goose /Zelda tweet. Steph Cask's Final Fantasy VII Eris
They don't
tweet.
list the tweet.
They don't tell you the tweet.
You know this
right.
fire tweet.
Cat Cosplay Cyberpunk tweet. YT Sunny's Mario Maker tweet. Cherzinga's streamer tweet.
Oh,
so
yeah.
which one?
Bazingas.
Sight unseen. Which of those concepts sounds the best to you?
The last one by a mile.
Cherzinga's streamer tweet. All right,
Absolutely.
so you click that. I just tweeted to them @Cherzinga's streamer tweet. That was like the text of my text to them.
Oh.
So then I immediately get back Cherzinga's streamer tweet, and they send me a photo of it. Now that I voted for it, I can see what it is. So it says how people think gamer girls game versus how we actually game. So there's one. I don't know if you've seen this one because it is one of the fire gaming tweets of the year. So there's two photos of a lady. One of them is she is playing in her house, and she is like wearing like a tank top and shorts, and is sitting in a gamer chair and playing a PC game. And that is implied to be how people think gamer girls game. And on the other picture, she is in a hoodie instead of a tank top. And she is kind of like leaning with her like feet, her legs kind of like perched on top of the chair, right? And she's wearing a hoodie, and there's she's kind of like her hair is all tousled because her hood is super covered up because apparently she's very cold. So that's the one that I just voted for.
That's dank fire, man.
That's really cool.
So I can confirm my vote or go back, and if I choose to go back, I'm giving once again the options.
This is our new segment. It's called Serial Narrates the Internet.
So you can vote
it's just
for
a
those
stupid system for choosing the fire tweet of the year?
Yes, that I think is it's a very dumb, weird choose your own vote thing.
Right,
that you can have at the Game Awards account.
Don't
do it.
Unfortunately, Cyril, you failed because you didn't start it out by saying, "Get a load of this."
Yeah, buddy.
Okay, I am always terrified about this because everyone I follow on social media is just talking about politics angrily all the time.
Right.
And I don't want to bring that crap in here. This is a safe haven.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say safe space because that's also political, so we're not going to go there. So I didn't have anything, but then yesterday an angel descended from the heavens with a remarkable tweet. It's a comedian. You may know him. He sometimes performs on the street.
Oh, no.
He says, "Went fishing the other day.
Don't read this.
I still feel like a novice baiter, definitely not a master baiter. Wait, why are you laughing? I swear I'm not a master baiter."
From Benjamin Reeves.
From Ben Reeves.
See, this is why
How many likes
I
does that
love
have?
and I'm constantly frustrated by Ben Reeves. He's like, you know what? How old were you when you first
that is
connected?
why it is a get a load of this, because we all figured out that joke when we were like 6 years old.
Yes.
And he just... And I think he is a very funny person.
Yes.
Like,
Reeves is
genuinely
hilarious.
a very funny person.
Yes.
But there are some blind spots, I guess, in there.
Yes, he is the least
will go
funny
blind
on
if you
his
make that
Twitter
joke.
account. But he gets the beautiful umbrella of, is it intentionally lame?
Yeah.
And the world may never know.
Folks, the replies didn't think so. One person said sigh, ...
right.
Another said low-hanging fruit, ...
Oh, fire tweet of the year.
And oh, Ben, and then a gif of Fozzie at the microphone just going,
Yeah. Okay. That
Yes,
sounds good.
but-
That sounds good.
"We love you, Ben.
We love you, Ben, but
dearly.
pick it up.
No more master baiter jokes, please."
Jesus. That's like if I went to like a hunting lodge in northern Minnesota, there would be a hat that made a masturbator joke that had been there for 17 years.
But do you, okay, so here's my theory. Do you think he was intentionally trying to, let's say, bait people
No.
into?
No,
you don't. So you
he's not a masturbator.
Yeah,
in
he
that
is
way.
a,
okay.
We did
Kyle.
it.
Why are you laughing?
He's bringing us mirth.
So this is actually a tweet that my wife showed me. Speaking of timely jokes that we figured out a long time ago, from Kate Gray, who writes for Kotaku, I guess, occasionally. I'm not super familiar with it, but she had this really obvious tweet about, it's another Game Award related one, nominating studios for being outside of the traditional publisher system in the same breath as listing their publishers is a very big sign that maybe we need to figure out once and for all what indie means, which I think is a really good point.
Oh, sure.
Because they have the Independent Game Award, and that's the definition for outstanding creative and technical achievement in a game made outside of the traditional publisher system. But every single game that's like nominated lists a developer and a publisher. And it's just kind of
that is interesting.
It's like it's just weird. It's like I know indie is like this weird definition that even we were kind of struggling with earlier. Yeah, it's Fortnite, but like maybe change that name or just change the definition to not include the word.
So
publisher.
No indie game can have a publisher now. Is that
I think it's just defining it as like these games work outside of the publisher system. It's just take that part of it off because they have publishers.
Yeah,
you know?
That is really confusing.
So, anyway, thank you, Kate Gray.
Hey, so I was playing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order the other day, and I started thinking, how long until a droid uses the Force in Star Wars? And get a load of this. Apparently, it's already happened. First of all, I found several forums debating a very fun concept about whether or not R2-D2 has the Force, which is a very fun idea, and that's why all these coincidences keep happening around R2 is he's actually using the Force to make all these things happen, which is...
Is this like a bigger Luke theory where it just happens to be a series of coincidences that people are connecting
That could be,
together?
but look, R2's been surrounded by a lot of coincidences.
Yeah, are you going to tell us?
No,
example?
because that's not the point. The point is that in 1999, there was a comic book written by Peter David, Star Wars Tales, that starred Skippy the Jedi droid. And the tale goes a little something like this. One day, R5 removed his restraining bolt with the Force and Force persuaded the Gamorrean guards to let him leave. Skippy wandered the desert for days in search of his destiny until finally he was picked up by a Jawa sandcrawler. There he had visions of Darth Vader and Princess Leia and met R2-D2 and C-3PO. Eventually the sandcrawler stopped, took all the droids out, and lined them up side by side in front of Owen Lars and Luke Skywalker. Skippy immediately sensed the Force in Luke and persuaded Owen to choose him. Skippy was ecstatic that at the undoubtable destiny that lay before him and Luke together. However, R5 soon envisioned that without Luke, stormtroopers would come and take R2 back to Vader, where he would be destroyed and Leia would be killed, leading to a chain reaction of horror that would include the rebellion being destroyed. R5's memory being wiped after 3PO refuses to translate his rubbish, and Luke dying on Tatooine without ever fulfilling his destiny. R5 knew what he had to do, and suddenly set off a mild explosion inside himself, leading Luke to believe that he had a busted motivator. Skippy then used the Force on 3PO, telling Luke to buy R2 instead. Owen did so. So this was a comic book in 1999 that R5, that stupid red droid...
just all built around... turning that into like a pivotal butterfly effect moment.
He had the Force and he used it to kill himself, so he would choose R2.
Well, set off a little explosion.
But he's not in good shape after that. But like, in terms of just like a franchise, like mining the most it can out of original films and then just going way too far, turning R5 into a Jedi droid is really
the first example of a robot with the Force.
Right. Yes. There are other examples as well, by the way, that have popped up, but not in the official canon now, as far as I'm aware.
And y'all grew up with this franchise, and it's near and dear to your heart. Okay. All right.
No, it's really good storytelling.
Don't diss Skippy.
But just to be clear, so that was extended universe stuff?
That has now
been...
It's a legend. People tell the legend of the time that R5
it's cool.
had a busted
Someone
motivator.
published that.
Yes, proudly. And by the way, I followed that writer and found what he's doing now, and he's just posting a bunch of blogs about the impeachment. So if you want to follow the writer...
For my next trick, which one of these guys is a Jedi?
That's it. Sorry this episode went long. Thanks for all the support. So far on this adventure, there's a lot of exciting things to come. Obviously, we're going to have Game of the Year deliberations. We're going to have community meetups. What form that takes for the fusion of the two, we're still figuring out those details, but we think we have a good roadmap that should be fun for everybody. So again, patreon.com/minmax2ends. Whoa! God damn, very exciting.
That was like
Thanks
a QTE.
So
You're on top of that.
Thursday morning, we will have reactions to the Half-Life reveal and maybe some other bonus things as well. I want to make a walkthrough of the studio. So if you're a techie, I'll show you some of the fun things going on here at the MinnMax studio, which will probably just involve spiders crawling over camera lenses. So please look forward to that. All right, until next week, everybody, be good, have fun, let's go.